Chapter 360. What's wrong with my third sister-in-law? Did I say something wrong? Jingwan continued to provoke her. Noble consort Su and Princess Lu didn't expect that Jingwan was so bold and dared to say anything. They could forgive her for hiding needles in the past, but now she had directly poked their bottom line. But under normal circumstances, there was nothing wrong with what she said. If they dared to argue with her, they would be the ones who would be embarrassed. The empress would probably be the happiest one, and then she would offend all the other concubines who had sons. Therefore, noble consort Su didn't even dare to pretend to be sick and use filial piety to suppress Jingwan. Speaking of which, the biggest problem with Jingwan's words was that the royal family couldn't be judged based on common sense. Apart from this family, most of the other families, even if they were members of the royal family, would eventually be inherited by the first wife. However, in history, not many emperors were born of the first wife of the empress. However, this was also something that couldn't be ignored. In the historical dynasties, it was basically the rule of the ancestors to choose the legitimate son or the eldest son. Contradictions existed everywhere, and some were just tacitly accepted. Noble consort Su was a good mother-in-law and had never sent anyone to Prince Rui's backyard. Li Hongyuan was an adopted son, so he had to pay more attention to some things. Sometimes, even if he had good intentions, others would say that he had bad intentions. If he hadn't been angered by Jingwan, he wouldn't have made such a stupid move. Even if he had made a stupid move, he wouldn't have directly said that she wanted to warm Li Hongyuan's bed. Everyone knew that this kind of thing had to be tactful. The reason why she was so straightforward was that she had a knack for it. If she really said that she wanted to serve the couple, the person she sent might really be treated as an ordinary maid. How could she achieve her goal in this way? So she simply said it straightforwardly. Besides, Yuaner was 23 years old and didn't have any children, and his wife was young. If she sent someone over, they had been married for more than half a year, not 3 months, and no one could criticize her. Even so, Madame Luo still caught the loophole in her words, and it was something that ordinary people did not dare to mention. She directly put the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law into the pit. The two of them gritted their teeth in the pit, but she was happy and content at the edge of the pit. Imperial concubine, Su had fought with the empress for 20 to 30 years. Although she had won and lost, she had never felt as sullen as she did today. She watched as the good mother-in-law's face cracked wider and wider. She almost couldn't hold it in anymore. Imperial concubine, esteemed princess consort would prefer someone she is familiar with to serve her. This servant sees that esteemed princess consort has 7 maidservants by her side, so there should be quite a few of them. Moreover, they are all very beautiful. Rather than giving them to His Highness, it would be better for esteemed princess consort to choose 1 or 2 of them as her own. I think esteemed princess consort would be very willing. Even if she gives birth to a child, I believe esteemed princess consort would treat it as her own. An aunt beside imperial concubine Su said with a smile. Look at me. How can I be confused? Thank you for reminding me. Have you brought all these people into the palace today? Let them all come in, and let me take a look. I know best what kind of girls Yuaner likes. I can take a look at them. Imperial concubine Su smiled lovingly, as if she was sharing the worries and difficulties of her daughter-in-law. Princess Lu also smiled in an instant. That's right. It couldn't be better. I believe 6th sister-in-law will also be satisfied. In reality, it was the most disgusting thing for a female master to allow her personal maidservants to become concubines. This was especially so for a maidservant who was groomed as a confidant and would become her right-hand woman in the future. Noble consort Su had actually gotten someone to do a rough check on the situation of the people around Jingwan. And looking at it now, she was afraid that none of them were prepared for her son. Since they dared to go against her, why should she be polite? Imperial concubine Su didn't even ask for Jingwan's opinion. The imperial maid who waited on the side directly went out and said to the maidservants with a smile. Then, she let them into the hall almost without allowing them to say anything. The reason why they all came to the palace today was that they were going to give gifts to the concubines in the palace. It wasn't a lot, and it was something that could be easily obtained. Naturally, they couldn't pass through other people's hands. Therefore, they brought all 7 maidservants with them, which led to a disaster for no reason. These maidservants were well behaved. Although they were nervous, they basically didn't show it on their faces. They all knelt down to greet Princess Lu. Jingwon had always been generous to the people around her. As long as they didn't violate the rules and weren't specially prepared for her by Li Hongyuan, she would give them a lot of rewards. She raised them well, and let them dress up beautifully. Moreover, their colors weren't bad. When they knelt on the ground, they were better than many women from official families. Imperial concubine Su saw it and said, "Sixth daughter-in-law is really extraordinarily nice to the people around her." That was even better. "Mother, you flatter me. They are loyal and considerate to me. It's just some worldly things. I won't be stingy." Even though she knew what Imperial concubine Su was going to do, Jingwon didn't change her expression now. Although she did feel a little uncomfortable in her heart, it didn't affect her much. "I'd like to see how long you can keep calm. Raise your heads and let me have a good look." Hearing this, the 7 maidservants raised their heads, but they all obediently lowered their eyes. Princess Lu clicked her tongue and praised, "Mother, look at them. They are so beautiful. I like them no matter how I look at them. Sixth brother is really lucky with women. He has always been surrounded by beauties. However, they are raised by sixth sister-in-law. It shows that sixth sister-in-law is also a virtuous woman." Imperial concubine Su didn't say anything. She just glanced at Princess Lu. She didn't have any objection to Princess Lu teasing Jingwon, but when it involved her son, who was said to be greedy and lecherous, she naturally wouldn't be happy. Princess Lu's mouth stiffened. She looked away and didn't dare to look at Imperial concubine Su. Hearing this, the 7 maidservants who were kneeling changed their expressions slightly. No matter from the perspective of the princess, the prince, or even their own perspective, they didn't want to serve the prince in bed. They unconsciously clenched their fists, but didn't dare to say or do anything. They were worried that their princess would be confused. Imperial concubine Su's eyes wandered over the 7 maidservants. After a while she said, "The first one on the left and the second one on the right." Daybreak, on the way back to the capital, had changed her name to Furong. Under normal circumstances, people would probably think that she was Furong. Although not many people knew Daybreak's identity, there might be some people who knew Daybreak's reputation among the officials of Chuanzhou Mansion and Shannon Commandery. It was inevitable that people's imagination would run wild when they had the same name. Jingwon wasn't surprised that they would be chosen. Although Furong was born in the secular world and was now a maidservant, Aunt May spent a lot of effort to teach her. She taught her in the direction of a lady from a noble family. Now she still looked chaste and gentle. Coupled with her stunning appearance, women like her would be particularly popular in brothels. Needless to say, Mei was extraordinarily beautiful and stunning. "Mother, you have a good taste. But I have never seen this beauty before. Did you take her in Jiangnan? It is said that Jiangnan is full of stunning beauties." "It is true. But I don't know whether sixth brother likes her, or sixth sister-in-law is virtuous, and specially found her for sixth brother." Princess Lu smiled. Jingwon glanced at her with a faint smile. She didn't say anything, but the meaning of idiot in her eyes was obvious. Princess Lu was angry, but she couldn't say anything more. Jingwon didn't say anything. If she said anything, she would be at a disadvantage. You too should do your best to serve your lord and princess in the future. Sixth daughter-in-law is still young now. If she has a child now, it will be harmful to her health. It can't be better after 2 years. You too should give birth to a child for the lord as soon as possible. You are all capable people around sixth daughter-in-law. When you give birth to a child in the future, your princess should pay special attention to it. Don't let her down. When the child is born, no matter it is a boy or a girl, I will reward them handsomely. In the future, you and sixth daughter-in-law can go to the palace from time to time. Jingwon looked at Imperial concubine Su. It was so obvious that she was trying to sow discord. She also said that she would support them. She told them not to be afraid of their master Jingwon. She even more or less wanted them to go against her. Jingwon didn't care much about these. What she cared about was that imperial concubine Su kept saying, Yuan'er's child, and give birth to a child for her adopted son. Didn't she feel guilty at all when she said these words? In fact, Jingwan only saw sincerity from her. It seemed that she really wanted to hold her adopted son's child as soon as possible. It had nothing to do with Jingwan. Jingwan felt cold in her heart. How could this woman be so terrible? Old sixth daughter-in-law, tell me, am I right? Imperial concubine Su obviously didn't want Jingwan to be a bystander. It seemed that she wouldn't be satisfied if she didn't see her change her expression. Mother! Imperial concubine Yang, please forgive this servant. This servant's body is lowly. Prince is a noble descendant. This servant admits that I don't have the qualifications to serve by his bedside. This servant has sullied Prince's body. Imperial concubine Yang, please take back your words. Fu Rong suddenly spoke. It seemed that she was belittling herself, but there was an indescribable determination in her voice. Imperial concubine Su was stabbed by Jingwan until she couldn't speak. Now even a lowly servant dared to disobey her. For a moment, Imperial concubine Su was unable to restrain her anger. Impudent! She smashed the cup in her hand again. The auntie beside noble consort Su also had a cold and stern expression on her face. She quickly stepped forward and slapped noble consort Su across the face. Lowly servant, how dare you? Her Highness has allowed you to serve His Highness. That's the good fortune you've accumulated over 8 lifetimes. How dare you refuse? If you don't want to live anymore, you can just say it. Fu Rong was slapped so hard that her body tilted. After that aunt finished speaking, she reached out to pull her hair. Jingwan's face turned cold the moment the auntie made a move. She stood up abruptly and grabbed the auntie when she reached out again. The auntie was indignant and instinctively wanted to resist. Jingwan coldly looked at her. What? Does aunt want to fight with this princess? That aunt was a little numb from Jingwan's gaze. She pulled her hand back from Jingwan's and bowed. This servant doesn't dare. It's just that this lowly servant doesn't know what's good for her. Relying on imperial concubine's favor, she's lawless. If we don't teach her a lesson now, who knows what will happen in the future? That's why this servant is so bold. This princess's people, even if they're wrong, this princess will teach them a lesson. You're just a lowly servant. Yet you dare to say that you'll take this princess's place? This princess's people are lawless. Aunt, you must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. That aunt's face twitched. If she made a move, she naturally represented imperial concubine Su. If imperial concubine Su wanted to teach a lesson to her daughter-in-law's people, regardless of whether they were wrong or not, it was natural. However, Jingwan didn't follow the rules. Old sixth's daughter-in-law, don't lose your dignity. You're a dignified imperial concubine. What kind of scandal is this? She was imperial concubine Su's aunt. If Jingwan didn't personally make a move, no one would dare to make a move. How could Jingwan just watch her people get bullied? This daughter-in-law may not be proper, but imperial concubine mother's manners are very good. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Imperial concubine Su's face darkened. Aunt, making a move is this concubine's idea. Oh, so the people around imperial concubine mother have telepathy with you. You didn't say a single word, but they knew it clearly. This time, it wasn't just 1 or 2 mouths that were twitching. Telepathy? These people had to think about every word that was said. In their opinion, it would be strange if Jingwan didn't have any hidden meaning in her words. Could it be that this daughter-in-law said something wrong? Then why don't we change the word telepathy? Telepathy? Otherwise it would be. That's enough, old sixth's daughter-in-law. Don't talk nonsense. Imperial concubine, Su wanted to strangle Jingwan to death. She used to think that this daughter-in-law was pretty good, especially since the Empress didn't succeed in scheming against her. Isn't that the case? That means that it was imperial concubine mother's aunt who acted on her own? The people around imperial concubine mother really have good manners. This time, it was back to square one. Imperial concubine Su's chest heaved up and down. It was obvious that she was very angry. It's this servant's fault. Wang Fei Nyang, please forgive this servant. It's this lowly servant who doesn't know what's good for her. This servant also watched Wang Ye grow up. In a moment of anger, This servant was impulsive and did the wrong thing, asking Wang Fei Nyang Nyang to forgive. Seeing that the fire was burning on her own master, that aunt simply and decisively admitted her mistake. The excuse she found was also flawless. If you bicker with her, would it mean that you were dissatisfied with her protecting Jin Qinhuang? As Jin Qinhuang Fei, could Jingwan be dissatisfied with this? She couldn't. Fu Rong straightened up and suddenly took off the hairpin on her head. Facing her face, she swiped it from the corner of her eye to the position close to her chin. The wound was long and deep. Her action frightened everyone, including Imperial concubine Su. Fu Rong endured the pain. Blood dripped down and soaked her clothes in an instant, but her eyes were firm and clear. Imperial concubine Nyang Nyang, this servant's face is ugly. I'm afraid that this servant will dirty Wang Ye's eyes and cannot serve Wang Ye. Asking for forgiveness. Which woman wouldn't care about her face? The more beautiful it was, the more they cared. But now, there was such a first-class beauty, a lowly servant, who refused to warm the bed of a Wang Ye and didn't hesitate to disfigure her face. Imperial concubine Su was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She definitely didn't look at the almanac today. After Imperial concubine Su restrained her shocked expression, her heart was filled with monstrous killing intent. Jingwan was also awakened by Fu Rong's words. In a flurry, she pressed the wound on her face with a handkerchief. Imperial concubine Su wanted to kill someone, but now she wanted to kill someone even more. Mama, hurry. Send Fu Rong back, and immediately let Gong Jiu treat her. Such a long and deep wound. It was 100% impossible to recover. A good beauty was ruined just like that. You're also a fool. Jingwan looked at Fu Rong, hating iron for not becoming steel. If she didn't want to, then she didn't want to. When she returned to the Wangfu and closed the door, whether Li Hongyuan slept or not, it was none of her business. Fu Rong wanted to smile, but it pulled on her wound. Her smile seemed stiff and forced. Wang Ye and Wang Fei are deeply in love. This servant is envious and doesn't want anyone to destroy it. This person especially can't be this servant, even if it's just a little bit. Don't talk about it. Go back and heal first. If she had known this would be the result, Jingwan naturally wouldn't have brought them along. Otherwise, she would have endured Imperial concubine Su and wouldn't have specifically stabbed her. Fu Rong was a clever girl, but at this time, she was stupid and stubborn. Mama Gong naturally listened to her master's words. She didn't even ask Imperial concubine Su for permission, and just took them away. Jingwan only left Qingju and sent the others away. They had just stepped out of the door when a maid hurriedly came in from outside. Nyang Nyang, the two Wang Ye are here. The two were undoubtedly Jin Wang Ye and Rui Wang Ye. Imperial concubine Su frowned. How could they be so fast? It didn't even take half a quarter of an hour. Jingwan looked at Imperial concubine Su, then reached out and unhurriedly pulled off the hair ornament on her head and threw it on the ground. Then she also pulled at her collar. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654028. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website mbicken.com. Chapter 361. Without waiting for Imperial Consort Su to say anything, Li Hongyuan turned his gaze to Jingwan. He saw that Jingwan was covered in blood, her appearance was disheveled, and the vicious aura around her was surging wildly. However, she didn't have the slightest intention of restraining it. What happened? Even Emperor Luqing couldn't touch his heart. In Imperial Consort Su's eyes, she had never seen Li Hongyuan like this before. Naturally, she felt incomparably horrified. Her heart was beating wildly, but she wasn't afraid. She just felt that something bad had happened. It wasn't something bad in the usual sense, but something that she couldn't bear. She wanted to say something, but her son didn't cooperate. This son obviously only had eyes for his wife. She inexplicably felt that her son had forgotten his mother once he had a wife. Imperial Consort Su's heart also faintly ached. Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan and smiled. Why did Prince come so quickly? This prince just wants to know what's going on right now. Outside, he met Jingwan's servants who were walking in a hurry and were injured. Li Hongyuan didn't ask them at all and quickened his pace. He was worried that something might have happened to Jingwan. Although he knew that Imperial Consort Su couldn't do anything, this worry didn't disappear. Jingwan raised her hand. Don't worry, this isn't my blood. Luo Jingwan, focus. Li Hongyuan suddenly raised his voice. This was the first time Li Hongyuan called her by her full name. It could be seen that he was really angry at this moment, and might lose control at any time. Li Hongyuan's anger was a bit beyond Jingwan's expectations. He should be able to see her current situation. She was clearly fine. Jingwan didn't know that the blood on her body had triggered a certain nerve in Li Hongyuan for no reason. That was a forbidden zone in the depths of Li Hongyuan's memory. As long as that day hadn't passed, as long as the dust hadn't settled, Li Hongyuan wouldn't be able to let it go. If he wasn't careful and touched it, he might explode. Who knew how many people would suffer from this explosion? It's nothing. It's just that an old servant fought with me. Jingwan created this scene just to complain. How could Li Hongyuan not see through such a clumsy and careless setup? After seeing through it with one glance, he completely believed in his wife, and would still cooperate to the end. He would use practical actions to tell everyone that his wife's words were the truth in any situation. Black was also white, and white was even more white. Li Hongyuan looked sharply at the ant who was a little further away from Jingwan. His gaze was like looking at a dead person. Someone come. Drag this old servant out for this prince. Flog her 50 times. Flogging her 50 times was to give face to noble consort Su and sounded nicer. However, the king of hell had personally spoken. If the executioners dared to lightly flog the old servant, the flogging would fall on them later. As such, the old servant's chances of survival after 50 flogs were very slim. Jingwan couldn't help but clench her fists. She had taken a life just because of a sentence from her. She felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. However, after thinking about it, she relaxed again. This woman was noble consort Su's most trusted aide. It could be said that she was her right-hand woman. There was definitely more than one life that had been lost in her hands. More importantly, some of the things that noble consort Su had done to her husband were also done by this person. Speaking of which, her death really didn't deserve to be regretted. Jingwan hardened her heart. Yuan noble consort Su's expression changed. Her voice couldn't help but raise and sound a little shrill. What's the matter, mother? Li Hongyuan was expressionless and cold. This was the first time her son had spoken to her like this. For a moment, noble consort Su was speechless. After a moment, she said, "The matter isn't like what your wife said." "Oh, then mother, why don't you let someone tell son what the truth is? Since you said that Madame Luo lied to son, I believe that the people around you absolutely wouldn't lie." These words didn't sound wrong, and they didn't feel any special emotions from Li Hongyuan. However, more than one person felt that her words were sarcastic. Noble consort Su felt even more uncomfortable. This son of hers had been close to her since he was young. Compared to others, including Lu Qingdi, she, as his mother, occupied the most important position in his heart. He was good to her and bad to others. Even if it was just a mother-son relationship, it would make people unconsciously feel superior. Imperial concubine Su would show off in front of Lu Qingdi from time to time, causing Lu Qingdi to be jealous. However, her mood was particularly relaxed. Obviously, this was the most obvious way to express it. Now, it was obvious that her daughter-in-law's position in her son's heart surpassed hers. Even if it wasn't for the time being, her son was faintly biased towards her daughter-in-law. It would be strange if she felt comfortable in her heart. Originally, she was provoked by Jingwan to the point of almost vomiting blood. Now, she didn't hide her cold expression at all. Li Hongyuan frowned and looked at noble consort Su with slight confusion. He didn't seem to understand why she was angry for no reason. "Mother, if you have something to say, just say it. You know that son hates guessing women's thoughts the most. If you act like this, son will mistakenly think that you don't miss son after returning from the capital half a year ago." Instead, you don't like sun. Did noble consort Su have motherly affection for Li Hongyuan? Definitely. However, it was precisely because she had feelings that Li Hongyuan's words were like knives stabbing into noble consort Su's heart. Blood flowed out, and it was so painful that she almost suffocated. Jingwan didn't understand what was going on. Her husband was the true king of acting. He was the kind of person who deliberately stabbed people. The person who was stabbed couldn't blame him, because he didn't know. Because he didn't mean it. So she had to pretend as if nothing had happened. Jingwan lit a candle for noble consort Su in her heart. However, Jingwan didn't sympathize with her at all. Noble consort Su reaped what she sowed. Otherwise, imperial consort Su wouldn't have invested in her feelings from the start. That way, even if they were mother and son in name, their relationship would be the same as the relationship between the other princes and imperial consort Su. It wouldn't matter if they were as indifferent as water, or if they became enemies. It would be perfectly normal. In the beginning, she wanted to use this adopted son to consolidate her favor. In the imperial harem, this kind of thing didn't matter, and Li Hongyuan didn't care at all. However, imperial consort Su treated this adopted son wholeheartedly. He wasn't any worse than her own son, so she shouldn't do anything unnecessary. If it weren't for those 1 or 2 extra things. Even if noble consort Su chose to support her own son in the end, Li Hongyuan probably wouldn't have done anything. He might even have helped Li Hongming, just like in his previous life, before Li Hongyuan knew the truth. Vicious and merciless, he didn't recognize his own family. He was malicious and ruthless, and he treated human lives like grass. Most of the reason why Li Hongyuan became so terrifying was because of noble consort Su. Of course, all of this was because of his previous life. In this life, it naturally wouldn't affect him at all. Moreover, he didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his temperament. In this life, Li Hongyuan was committed to keeping his composure, and even innocently, provoking noble consort Su. He wasn't interested in doing it deliberately, but since it involved his wife, he was embarrassed and didn't hold back. How is Yuaner's words different from consort mother's heart? Noble consort Su's face was pale. Her heart really hurt. Consort mother, please forgive me. As the saying goes, when a son travels 1,000 miles, consort mother worries. This son thought that after not seeing consort mother for so long, the first thing consort mother would do was show concern for this son's recent situation. But in reality, such an unpleasant thing happened. Although this son is no longer at the age where I can fool around with consort mother, this son is still unhappy. You actually gave this consort a chance to show concern. Everyone else looked at Li Hongyuan and had the same thought. Apart from Jingwan, the others weren't too sure if Li Hongyuan's actions were intentional, or if he was just judging the matter as it was. After all, Li Hongyuan was noble consort Su's good son. That was obvious to all. Noble consort Su had been in this position for so many years, so she was very good at maintaining her composure. Although she was in pain, she still managed to maintain her composure. This is consort mother's fault. But isn't it also wrong for Yuan to hit the people around consort mother? This lowly servant offended her superiors. Don't tell me she doesn't deserve to be beaten? Li Hongyuan's eyes were practically saying, consort mother, where are your rules? Yuan, are you only listening to Lady Luo's side of the story, and not believing consort mother's words? It was one thing that she couldn't repeat what had happened before, but she also felt indignant that her son didn't trust her. Li Hongyuan was silent for a moment, then looked steadily at noble consort Su. You are Urchin's consort mother. You raised Aken. Lady Luo is Urchin's princess consort. She's someone who will accompany Aken for countless years to come. Aken hopes that both of you can live well. I hope that both of you can get along harmoniously like mother and daughter. Lady Luo is gentle, kind and good-tempered. Before she got married, she was also a filial girl. You've always treated Lady Luo well. Li Hongyuan's meaning couldn't be more obvious. If there was a problem between Lady Luo and Lady Luo, then it was Lady Luo's fault. Noble consort Su's lips trembled slightly, but she couldn't say a single word. Li Hongyuan's analysis was very reasonable. Lady Luo Jingwan was filial and a junior. You, noble consort Su, was an elder with even more respect. If you said that Jingwan disobeyed you, probably not many people would believe it. But noble consort Su didn't seem to have any reason to target Jingwan, right? Consort mother, Aken knows that even saints have people they don't like. If Lady Luo isn't liked by you, then just let her enter the palace less in the future. Please don't lower yourself to her level. Li Hongyuan continued to poke at her. His words were exceptionally sincere. This reason didn't seem to be untenable. It really was a bit of a dilemma of being sandwiched between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Jingwan even applauded Li Hongyuan in her heart. Noble consort Su must be angered to death. This consort doesn't dislike her. That's naturally for the best. Then it's still the matter from before. Can Imperial Mother tell me what exactly happened? Tell her? How should she tell her? Lady Luo was also here. How could she distort the truth? Noble consort Su looked at Jingwan again. She really didn't have a good impression of her. She was just a little girl. She had a sharp tongue, was scheming, and was used to putting on an act. The relationship between mother and son was very good, but because of her, there was a conflict between mother and son. She didn't look like a vixen, but her methods were clearly not something 10 vixens could compare to. Jingwan looked scared and shrunk behind Li Hongyuan. Noble consort Su's gaze became even colder, but it just so happened that she met Li Hongyuan's eyes. Li Hongyuan's eyes had the words as expected. Noble consort Su felt like she wouldn't be able to clear her name, even if she jumped into a river. One moment she said she didn't. The next moment she slapped her own face. She covered her mouth and nose with a handkerchief and took 2 deep breaths. She really was muddle-headed from anger. Her emotions were exposed so easily. Since consort mother doesn't want her people to say it, then let Lady Luo's maidservant say it. Out of the 7 maidservants, only Qingju was left. When Li Hongyuan said this, she didn't have any scruples. Like pouring beans, she learned most of the previous matter. Even if noble consort Su sternly shouted at her to stop, she couldn't stop her. It made people feel that noble consort Su was guilty. Qingju's personality was more lively than the others, but it didn't mean that she was stupid. In her words, she weakened Jingwan and highlighted noble consort Su's strength and aggressiveness. As for whether that aunt fought with Jingwan, she said that she was kneeling with her head lowered and didn't see it. However, that aunt had physical contact with her Wangfei and acted like she was superior, not putting her Wangfei in her eyes. In the end, Qingju looked at Li Hongyuan with a confused expression. Your Highness, did Wangfei say something wrong? I don't think so. Why is noble consort Su so angry? Princess Rue is indeed noble consort Su's biological daughter-in-law, and Wangfei is only her adopted son's daughter-in-law. Is that why noble consort Su sent people to you instead of Prince Rue? Then she secretly glanced at Princess Lu. Prince Rue is several years older than you, but he doesn't have a son. Your Highness has been married for more than half a year. Why can't you get married if you don't have a son? After Jingwan was stabbed, Li Hongyuan did it. Now, even a maidservant came to stab noble consort Su, and asked how many bloody holes there were on her body. Noble consort Su regretted. Although things were generally like this, a little deviation could lead to a completely different result. She didn't want her son to know it, but she still revealed it. It was better for her to take the initiative from the beginning. If she explained it now, it would most likely be regarded as sophistry. If she didn't say anything, it might be regarded as acquiescence. There was no way forward and no door back. Mother, Madame Luo has only been in the capital for more than a year. She used to live in Qian Manor with Madame Luo. Madame Luo dotes on her very much, and has never instilled any complicated things in her. Therefore, she is innocent and says whatever she thinks. I believe that she has absolutely no intention of targeting you. Moreover, she really doesn't know anything about what happened in Jiangnan. If Imperial Mother wants to know something, there is no harm in asking Aken now. In any case, Imperial Father has other important matters to attend to right now. Aken hasn't reported what happened in Jiangnan yet. Or if Imperial Mother wants Aken to do something, there is still time. As Li Hongyuan spoke, he expressionlessly glanced sideways at Li Hongming. She could abandon her adopted son for the sake of her biological son. As an adopted son, he knew very well that even if she wanted to do something, he wouldn't complain. Because she was his mother, and she raised him. Noble consort Su looked at his expressionless face. This kind of expression was common when facing others, but in front of her, there was always a trace of gentleness and warmth. Now that it had disappeared without a trace, did this mean that she would be the same as the others? Noble consort Su was a little flustered. How could she be in the mood to care about Jingwan? She even unconsciously walked down from the main seat. Yuan, it's not. She reached out to pull him. Li Hongyuan took a step back and avoided her. Mother, I'm afraid I won't stay here for long. Noble consort Su's heart ached to the extreme. It was completely different from the pain she felt before. Yuan, listen to me, it's not. Mother. Li Hongming, who had been in the background, suddenly spoke. Noble consort Su looked over and saw the pleading in his eyes. Imperial consort Su knew that this matter was no small matter, especially after hearing from Jingwan about the huge amount of stolen money. Ming, definitely wouldn't be clean. If Yuan could help, as long as the loss was smaller than the others, they would have an advantage. Now it was just a matter of a word from her. But the current situation was like choosing between two sons. Noble consort Su looked at Li Hongyuan, her lips trembling, and her eyes unconsciously filled with guilt. Li Hongyuan laughed bitterly, and suddenly reached out to cover his eyes. After a moment he removed his hand, and all his emotions were gone. Mother, you don't have to be like this, and you don't have to say anything. I understand that you are my mother, and you will still be in the future. This will never change. Yuan. Noble consort Su looked at Li Hongyuan. His eyes were clearly a little red. This son of hers had been a tyrant since he was young. When had he ever revealed such a weak and forbearing appearance? Her tears fell down. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654032. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Mobile version reading website: bicken.com. Chapter 362. Yes, Your Highness. Jingwan replied timidly. As for her heart, it was a completely different matter. Even though noble consort Su was crying miserably, Jingwan's heart didn't waver in the slightest. It could be seen that she was becoming more and more cold-hearted. Alright, it was mainly because noble consort Su deserved it. She wanted everything and didn't want to leave behind any threats. So she couldn't blame others for finding out the truth and playing her for a fool. It was just karma. Jingwan felt that her acting skills were also improving. However, compared to her husband, she still paled in comparison. After all, if she were to switch roles with a certain someone, she would most likely be exposed. Thus, it was best to weaken herself as much as possible and use lowering her head to cover it up. When facing someone with a higher status than her, this wasn't a problem at all. Jingwan sighed the most in her heart. If she didn't know the inside story, she would have been completely fooled by a certain someone and thought that he was in extreme pain at this moment. Because he was hurt so badly, his heart became even more cold and hard to cover up the weakness in his heart. Clearly many people thought so. Not only did noble consort Su think so, even Prince Rue, who was good at hiding things and liked to control people, thought so. Because of this, his opinion of Li Hongyuan had changed slightly. In the past, his mother had always been biased towards Li Hongyuan. Although it wasn't a big deal, it still made him feel a little indignant. Now it was completely balanced. Of course, he couldn't expect him to be in as much pain as noble consort Su. Li Hongyuan turned to leave, but paused and looked directly at the ant beside noble consort Su. Compared to before, his emotions were more exposed. Drag this old servant out and beat her to death. Don't make this prince say it a third time. Now that he directly killed her, it could be seen that he still had a problem with noble consort Su's actions. He couldn't have a problem with noble consort Su, so he naturally took his anger out on her. Jingwan only wanted to say that the living king of hell really had a lot of drama when he killed people for a reason. As noble consort Su's right-hand woman, many concubines had to respect her. She didn't need to do any hard work, and her food and clothes were top-notch. Compared to many madams and madams of officials, she was even better. In this kind of situation, would she want to die? Of course not. Previously, she thought that she could escape this calamity, but she didn't expect it to be even worse now. After all, she had a slight chance of survival just a moment ago, but now, she was definitely going to die. Her legs went limp, and she no longer had the prestige she usually had in front of the concubines, eunuchs, and palace maids. Your Highness, save me. Your Highness, save me. Your Highness, please save this servant. This aunt didn't dare to say things like kindness, because she knew that imperial concubine Su hated these things the most. The more she said, the faster she would die. Now that there was a gap between the mother and son, if she sacrificed her life to let the mother and son mend the rift, imperial concubine Su would absolutely not be reluctant. What's more, Jin Qinhuang had a legitimate reason. For an absolutely loyal and capable confidant, imperial concubine Su would definitely be reluctant to part with it. So she still wanted to save her. Yuan Li Hongyuan looked at her with a trace of coldness. Mufei, Akin and Luo sure are husband and wife. As the saying goes, husband and wife are one. Her honor and glory represent urchin's honor and glory. An insignificant lowly servant dares to be rude to her. Now that Mufei wants to save her, does it mean that in Mufei's eyes, urchin's honor and glory are nothing more than this, and can be trampled on by anyone? Forget about third imperial brother, he's your son. In your heart, it's natural that he's more important than Akin. Now, even a lowly servant can climb over urchin's head? Speaking of which, the severity of this situation skyrocketed by countless levels. Imperial concubine Su received another blow. Her heart ached like it was being twisted. Her complexion was deathly pale, and she was on the verge of collapse. How can you honor say that? How can? A trace of heartache flashed across Li Hongyuan's face. He seemed to subconsciously reach out a hand to take a step forward, but then he stopped abruptly and withdrew his hand. His emotions were restrained, and his face was expressionless. Li Hongyuan expressed that this time, he was heartbroken, truly heartbroken. He wouldn't easily forgive his Mufei. Imperial concubine Su saw this clearly. What are you standing there for? Drag her out and beat her to death, she said coldly to the eunuchs standing at the door. The eunuchs who were still hesitating trembled all over. They didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly stepped forward. In the face of their aunt, who used to be high and mighty and bossy, a strange sense of superiority grew in them. No matter what happened in the past, she was still going to die in their hands now. Therefore, they became even more ruthless when they beat her. Imperial concubine, imperial concubine. That aunt probably never thought that it would be her master who gave the order in the end. While she was in despair, endless hatred also grew in her. Thinking about it, she could do anything for her master, but in the end she ended up like this. How could she not have any negative feelings? Imperial concubine Su also saw this, but at this time, she looked away. Shut their mouths. She was very clear that after today, her subordinates would be somewhat affected. After all, as her confidants, it was hard for others not to think that they would end up like this. Then she looked at Li Hongyuan, as if to say, Yuan, are you satisfied? Satisfied? Haha. Even if all the people around Imperial concubine Su died, as long as they didn't provoke him, it wouldn't have anything to do with him. There's one more thing that Mufei should know. If any random lowly servant could give birth to an heir for this son, then this son wouldn't be without a son or a daughter today. It seems that Mufei has forgotten some of the words this son once said. Li Hongyuan lowered his eyes. This son will take his leave. This time, he left quite straightforwardly. Jingwan crouched down and also left, followed by Qingju. Li Hongyuan was protecting his wife's chastity, and in order to save some trouble, there seemed to be countless beautiful women around him, but they were all people of low status. Naturally, he had an excuse that his son's birth mother's background couldn't be too low, so no one suspected anything. Now that you mention it again, as a Mufei, You really don't care. Your son is sad again. After leaving the Jade Essence Palace, Li Hongyuan's body was still emitting cold air, making people who saw him from afar quickly avoid him. The eunuchs who were preparing to send Jingwan out of the palace only dared to follow behind, not daring to go forward. After walking for a while, Jingwan and Li Hongyuan were about to part ways. Prince! Jingwan, who was 2 steps behind, finally called out to him. Li Hongyuan came back to his senses and looked at her. He didn't say anything, but his eyes softened. Jingwan almost laughed out loud. He really was the most meticulous. However, Imperial Consort Su had been ruthlessly tricked again. Now many people had seen her appearance at this moment. It would be strange if there weren't any strange associations. What's more, Imperial Consort Su's right-hand man had been beaten to death. Who would believe that there wasn't something fishy going on? Imperial Consort Su's image as a good mother-in-law was in danger. Jingwan knew that this man did it on purpose, but Imperial Consort Su didn't think so. It must be that her son was too sad, so he didn't notice. However, Jingwan wouldn't be so lucky. Imperial Consort Su would definitely think that she was deliberately going against her. But now her son was obviously on her daughter-in-law's side. So, even if she was angry, Imperial Consort Su had nowhere to vent her anger. After a long time, she might get sick from holding it in. Thinking about it, it was obvious that the palace was going to be lively for a while. Wang Yi, Chia's appearance is not proper, so Chia cannot go to Sweet Dew Palace to pay respects to Imperial Consort Shu. I will have to trouble you to send someone to say that Chia will apologize to her in the future. Li Hongyuan slightly frowned. His gaze fell on the bloodstains on Jingwan's body. No matter how he looked, he still felt that it was dazzling. Understood. He turned and left. This acting, Jingwan didn't know how many times she had sighed in admiration. Seeing Jin Qin Wangfei beckoning, the eunuch carrying the palanquin was finally relieved of a burden. He quickly stepped forward and steadily sent Jingwan out of the palace. When Jingwan got on the Wang Fu's carriage, she didn't carry the palanquin. She tilted her body and allowed the Qingju to use the warm water in the carriage to wipe the blood off her hands. To tell the truth, her own husband's arrival at the Jade Essence Palace was too coincidental. Lu Qingdi suddenly had something important to do, so he went to the Jade Essence Palace first. And then a series of unpleasant things happened. Jingwan felt that the possibility of that important matter was arranged by her own husband was quite high. Thinking of this, her heart felt warm. Although she was not afraid of facing Imperial Consort Su, but to be worried and worried, fearing that she would suffer, that kind of feeling was quite good. As for the situation in the Jade Essence Palace now, Jingwan didn't have the mind to think about it. Returning to the Wang Fu, Jingwan first went to see Fu Rong. The wound on her face had been treated. Because it was wrapped up, she couldn't see the specific situation. Jingwan looked at Fu Rong and didn't know what to say. For Fu Rong, this was simply an unexpected disaster. Fu Rong didn't care much and instead comforted Jingwan. Wang Fei, don't worry, Newbie is fine really. Anyway, Newbie doesn't plan to marry in this life. My face is injured, don't mind it. Without this face, maybe it can save some trouble. It wasn't strange that Fu Rong didn't want to marry. After all, there was that kind of past. However, in the whole capital, only our Wang Ye can find trouble with others. Even the emperor often retreats. As a person of Jin Qin Wang Fu, even if you temporarily avoid outside, there's no reason to hurt yourself. This kind of stupid thing, don't do it again in the future. Fu Rong was slightly surprised, and then nodded with a chuckle. The feeling of being protected was really good. Even if her face was injured and disfigured, Fu Rong also felt that it was very good now. Later, Jingwan looked for Gong Jiu and asked him to do his best to reduce the scars on Fu Rong's face. Gong Jiu promised to do his best. Jingwan then went to bathe and change clothes. She changed into relatively light clothes and came back much earlier than expected. Under normal circumstances, Lu Qingdi and Imperial Concubine Su would stay for lunch. Now it was unknown whether Imperial Concubine Su could eat. It was also unknown whether Li Hongyuan would come back for lunch. But Jingwan was not worried. She went back and began to prepare the things for tomorrow's visit to her maternal family. and the things for Great Elder Princess Fu. These two places were bound to be visited. As for the others, she couldn't visit the older sisters and younger sisters she knew before she got married, because of her identity. But she still had to send the things. After a few days, she could send an invitation to them to visit the Wangfu. Of course, there were other Wangfu, not only her husband's brothers, but also the relatives of the imperial family, and even the princes and princesses who were still in the palace. Her maternal uncle's family was now rooted in the capital, so it couldn't be left out. There were a lot of things to send. In this way, the things she bought in Jiangnan were not particularly many. Jingwan didn't think about sending the things to the princes and princesses in the palace herself. In this area, Gong Mama was more familiar with it than she was. She didn't need to worry at all, and could do it properly. An hour later, Imperial concubine Su sent people to deliver things. In addition to the hair ornaments she tore off and threw in the Jade Palace, there were other things. It was said that Jin Qinhuang Fei gave Imperial concubine Nyang something good. Imperial concubine Nyang was very happy. These were all rewarded by Imperial concubine Nyang. After the people left, Jingwan smiled playfully. Imperial concubine Su was angered to death and still wanted to bleed. She had to suffer this loss. But she thought that Imperial concubine Su would destroy her own ruby hair ornaments to vent her anger. Now that she saw that they were intact, she was a little surprised. Put them with the others and put them away. I won't use them in the future. She had a super rich husband, and her own private fortune was in the tens of millions. Jingwan was now so rich that she felt no pressure at all. She was about to treat money like dirt. Near noon, Mu Gonggong returned to the Fu. The living king of hell was indeed kept by Lu Qingdi, but according to Mu Gonggong's words, it seemed that the official business had been finished earlier than expected. Lu Qingdi lost his temper and smashed the things on the imperial table until there was nothing left. Li Hongyuan rarely comforted Lu Qingdi with a few words. For Lu Qingdi this was very rare. After all, he had always been angered by this son of his. His heart suddenly felt a lot better. Then unknowingly, he talked about the imperial concubine. He didn't know if it was because Jin Qinhuang was hurt by his adoptive mother, but when he talked about his biological mother, he was especially silent. Even if Lu Qingdi wholeheartedly recalled his beloved woman, he still found out that his son was wrong. As the father, he naturally had to care. After all, this was born from the woman who loved him. It was the crystallization of their love. As a result, Li Hongyuan was indifferent and perfunctory. Although Lu Qingdi wasn't a person with a high IQ, most of them were still intelligent. He didn't ask much. In any case, this son wasn't like this when he first entered the palace. He must have encountered something in the palace. Later he would ask someone to investigate, and he would know. Jingwan naturally didn't object to her own husband and his Fu Huang putting on a show of fatherly love and filial piety. As for whether that scene was a scene of father-son affection, or whether Li Hongyuan intentionally or unintentionally made Lu Qingdi upset, it had even less to do with her. In the afternoon, Jingwan began to send out gifts. Cart after cart was pulled out according to the order of their status, and sent out the gifts together. For the entire afternoon, the entire street outside Jin Wangfu was unusually lively. In the neighboring residences, many servants and even masters came out to watch the bustle. Speaking of which, many people knew that Jin Wangfu was rich. But in the past, no matter which family did something, he would always give the same gifts as everyone else. It wouldn't be too thick or too thin. This time, it was definitely the first time that he had spent so much. Perhaps some people would have a conspiracy theory, but there were even more people who thought that Jin Wangfu had a female master. This kind of social interaction was naturally more meticulous and considerate. Moreover, everyone knew that Jin Wangfu had bought a lot of things back from Jiangnan, so it was natural for them to send out gifts. When Li Hongyuan left the palace, he just happened to see the things that were going to be sent to the princes and princesses. He casually asked for the list of gifts to take a look. Although it might not be worth mentioning in Li Hongyuan's eyes, it was actually quite generous. He casually flipped through a few lists. Although the things were different, the value was almost the same. Li Hongyuan was very sure that these things would make people satisfied. But at the same time, they would also offend some people. Thinking about it, in the inner palace, everyone's favoritism was different, and the treatment they received would certainly be different. Think about it, those who were favored, when they found out that their things were the same as those who weren't favored, how could their hearts be balanced? However, because they were all good things, even in the palace, they might not be able to see them often. Thus, they wouldn't be willing to smash it, wouldn't be willing to throw it away. They would use it without any psychological pressure, but their hearts would be filled with resentment. And those who weren't favored should be grateful to their wives. Otherwise, they might be able to get some good things when they got married. These things, how could his own wife not think of it? Li Hongyuan believed that she definitely knew, but it was obviously better to treat everyone equally. Moreover, even if some people were unhappy, they could only hold it in their hearts. They couldn't say anything and couldn't do anything. Complaining to the living king of hell, was it asking for a beating, or asking for a beating? https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654039. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 363. When Li Hongyuan returned to the residence, Jingwan was still busy. You're back. Jingwan looked up at him with a gentle smile, but she did not get up. If husband and wife were still so polite in private, they probably could not be called husband and wife. Li Hongyuan acknowledged and sat down beside Jingwan. He wrapped his arms around her waist naturally and kissed her on the cheek. He looked at the boxes of various sizes at the side. There was a faint smell of sandalwood. He reached out and opened one of them. You brought it back? Inside was a string of Bodhi Buddha beads. These Bodhi Buddha beads were received in Cheongzhou Prefecture and were actually given by Pei Xiuying. Based on the Pei family's background, it was not surprising that they were able to produce them. Pei Xiuying was a talented woman and had a deep understanding of Buddhism. When she chose to give the Bodhi Buddha beads, it was considered a different approach. Unfortunately, no matter what she thought or what she wanted to do, it was completely destroyed before it could be carried out. Even she was implicated. Therefore, sometimes too much scheming was useless. Although the meaning of these Buddha beads had changed because of other people's interests, one could not completely deny their value. It was not easy to obtain so many different and high-quality Bodhi Buddha beads. It was really not worth it if they were destroyed, because of some small reason. Moreover, Jingwan still did not know the origin of these Bodhi Buddha beads. She did not know at that time. After leaving Cheongzhou Prefecture and sending the Buddha beads to White Dragon Temple for consecration, she had completely forgotten about it. Now she was completely uninterested in pursuing the matter. I originally planned to send them directly to Great Master Liaochen. Fortunately, he is indeed at White Dragon Temple. The 1080 Star Moon Bodhi beads are most suitable for Great Master Liaochen. After all, it is really too long for ordinary people. It should be given to Great Master Liaochen. The rest are placed in front of Buddha and recited sutras for 49 days. It is very suitable for Great Master Buddha beads. I plan to give 108 small Vajra Bodhi beads to grandmother. Grandfather, please bear with it for a while. 54 wood seed beads will do. Since the person who gave these Bodhi beads has already taken out so many, why didn't he give us some more? We don't even have enough to share now. Jingwan felt that the other party was stingy. Li Hongyuan nodded solemnly in agreement. Both of them had ignored the slight astonishment they had felt when they first saw these Buddhist prayer beads. They even seemed to have sighed at each other's work. Was this considered as taking advantage of the situation? No, because if Li Hongyuan wanted these things, he could get them with his own means. But that would be meaningless. After all, it didn't look like gold, silver, or jewelry. It was enough for the person she liked to have a bunch of them. As for the rest, there were 8 Taiyang beads, 21 Yueyang beads, 14 Jinchanzi beads, 10 Wuyan Lutong beads, 12 Mongguan beads, 27 lotus seat beads, 27 white jade beads, and 54 Chilan eyes beads. Jingwan had reserved one for each of her parents, and one for each of her grandparents. Even if people didn't like Buddhist prayer beads, with Master Liaochen's blessing, no one would refuse. In the end, after some thought, she prepared a white jade Bodhi bead for her sister-in-law. Looking at so many, there were only 2 or 3 left. TSK, it didn't seem like it would be good to share them. In reality, there was still the palace, but Jingwan hadn't thought about them from the beginning. Give them all to your grandmother. Let her decide how to deal with them, Li Hongyuan suggested. It was clear that he hadn't thought about the people who were related to him by blood. Jingwan nodded. That's not a bad idea. By the way, how's the Jiangnan matter? Who needs to be dealt with? Everything is as expected. Imperial father cares a lot about his reputation and doesn't want to leave such a huge corruption case as a stain in his later years. However, it's still a serious matter. Although the matter won't be completely exposed, he should still summon some of his trusted old officials to see who needs to be dealt with and who can be let off for the time being. However, these have nothing to do with us. I've already told them to deal with those that need to be dealt with. Then about noble consort Su's request. As for Li Hongming, I did help him cover up some of it. However, I want him to give me 10 times, 100 times, the amount that he recovered from Imperial Father. In any case, because of his relationship with Imperial Mother, I'm sad and angry. Isn't it natural to vent my anger on him? Noble consort Su wouldn't say a word, so Li Hongming could only pinch his nose and admit it. After all, compared to revealing everything to Imperial Father, his loss would only be greater. However, after taking out this sum of money, he should be short on money. If he didn't want to look too bad, he should take out the dowry of his Wangfei and concubine to supplement it. Also, that good imperial mother of his would definitely help him. Although noble consort Su has boundless glory and a respected status in the harem, and her own private treasury seems to be very rich, many of those things are bestowed by the emperor. All of them are registered and can't be used easily. What she can supplement is limited. After that, the high and mighty imperial noble consort will also be short on money. If this matter is revealed, her face will be stripped off by the other women in the harem. Jingwan's expression was a bit subtle. Did you expect all of this? Or did you deliberately plan it? I didn't plan it. It's completely natural that noble consort Su would do this. As long as she added fuel to the fire a little bit, this kind of situation would occur. The only difference is whether the initiative is in my hands or hers. Obviously, the initiative is in my hands, Li Hongyuan said with a smile. It's all Wanwan's credit. Look, he completely had the pearl of wisdom in his hands, and the person he had schemed against still didn't know. One was still endlessly hurt, and the other didn't know that she was about to bleed a lot. If she knew, what kind of expression would she have? It would be hard to imagine that level of excitement if one wasn't present. Jingwan inexplicably felt a bit of anticipation. So Wang Yi also schemed against this concubine? Jingwan pretended to be angry. Li Hongyuan moved closer and intimately rubbed against Jingwan. It's all this husband's fault. Wife can punish me as you wish. Jingwan glared at him angrily. This man, he couldn't be serious for more than 3 seconds. Sometimes it really made people want to beat him to death. Li Hongyuan didn't move at all. His lips hooked up in a bewitching smile. Or Wanwan, do you have anything else to say? This was obviously a meaningful question. Jingwan was currently being harassed by him, so she didn't think too much. She just reached out to push him away, trying to make him move a little further away. Li Hongyuan's eyes narrowed slightly. Some kind of emotion condensed in the depths of his eyes. Although it wasn't obvious on the surface, he was really quite unhappy at this moment. Today in the Jade Essence Palace, he had clearly mentioned his former woman. But his wife didn't say anything. In someone's opinion, his wife didn't care about his past. Normal people couldn't wait to cover up this kind of dark history. If the person they cared about didn't pursue it, they would only feel lucky. However, Li Hongyuan wasn't a normal person. He was a psychopath. He had peeped at his wife for a long time. In contrast, the more possessive and caring he was about Jingwan, the more possessive and caring Jingwan was about him. If she didn't investigate his past, it meant that she didn't care. It was absolutely intolerable. I have nothing to say. Go away, go away. Can't you see that I'm busy? As soon as these words came out, Li Hongyuan's eyes became even darker. He took away the things in Jingwan's hands, threw them aside, and carried her horizontally. His wife's awareness was still not enough. He had to train her fiercely, until she would immediately erect a line of defense at the slightest sign of trouble. All the signs had to be extinguished. It would be best if someone looked at her too much, and his wife would go berserk and gouge out that person's eyes. Only then would it be perfect. Jingwan struggled. She was about to say, "What's wrong with you again?" When she met his eyes, she thought, "Oh my God, he's really crazy." And looking at the situation, this psychopath has already reached the level of abnormal. Jingwan knew that once this person had a relapse, there was no way to reason with him. The best way was to appease him. However, to appease him, she had to find the cause first. Jingwan said that she didn't know at all. Jingwan was thrown onto the bed by a certain someone, and her clothes were torn apart in no time. Jingwan only wanted to scream for help. She was very doubtful. Would she be able to wake up tomorrow and return to her parents' home? Although Jingwan wasn't injured, a certain bastard really did it very ruthlessly. Not only did she feel that her body was hollowed out, even her soul seemed to have been squeezed dry. Jingwan suspected that a certain someone had long surpassed the scope of human beings. He wasn't human. He wasn't human. She couldn't even move a finger, and her mind was blank. It was almost winter, and she felt like she had been fished out of the water. She was really going to become a cripple. Even so, Jingwan's body couldn't help but tremble slightly. It was because this psychopath had upgraded to a snake demon. He was sticking to her body, caressing inch by inch, using his fingertips and the tip of his tongue. That kind of feeling was really like some kind of cold-blooded animal swimming over her body. Unfortunately, this body was too weak and too sensitive. Li Hongyuan's lips finally landed on Jingwan's earlobe. Gently, his breath was warm, and Jingwan couldn't help but shudder. Li Hongyuan chuckled softly. The pure bewitchment in the past was now mixed with a little danger. "Wan, do you know your mistake now?" "I know." Jingwan's voice was very hoarse and she was weak. Her consciousness was still a little scattered. The only remaining thought was probably, "As long as you don't torture me, I'll do anything." "What did you do wrong?" Li Hongyuan continued to ask. How could he let it go so easily? Jingwan paused. It took her 2 beats to realize what Li Hongyuan was talking about. I don't know. She really didn't know. Her current state was completely not conducive to thinking. Moreover, if she made a messy guess, this bastard might continue to use it as a pretext to make a fuss. I don't know. Li Hongyuan dragged the last syllable for a long time. Goosebumps were about to rise. Please, why did her illness take so long this time? Wake up quickly. My good heart, you don't know what mistake you made, but you admit it so straightforwardly. Then, won't you make the same mistake in the future? Your husband will be very unhappy. Then can you give me a hint? There are some things that one needs to be aware of for it to be deep enough, and not make the same mistake again in the future. So one needs to think about it herself. Think slowly. In any case, we have a lot of time. If 2 Shurchen isn't enough, then 6 Shurchen. If 6 Shurchen isn't enough, then 3 Shurchen. If 3 Shurchen isn't enough, then 3 Shurchen. If 3 Shurchen isn't enough, then 3 Shurchen. If 3 Shurchen isn't enough, then 3 Shurchen, then 3 Shurchen. If 3 Shurchen isn't enough, then 3 Shurchen, then 3 Shurchen. If 3 Shurchen isn't enough, then your husband can't help but suspect that one isn't enjoying the pleasures of fish and water like today. Jingwan wanted to cry but had no tears. What kind of hatred and resentment was there that he would remember it for 30 years? Was she enjoying it? Or was this bastard using it as a pretext to make a fuss? It was clearly his expectation that she didn't know. That's enough for you. It's uncomfortable. I want to take a bath. Jingwan didn't want to be entangled on this issue now. Your husband feels that it's not bad right now. As he spoke, he licked his lips again. Jingwan had already discovered that a certain person was a bit of a clean freak. But at this time, This kind of clean freak was actually cured without any medicine? Hungry, Jin Qinhuang wants to starve his Wangfei to death and marry a new love. Ah, without a new love, if Wanwan really starves to death, this husband will accompany you. That would be too unsightly. If a Qinhuang's Wangfei were to starve to death, that would be the scandal of the entire Li imperial clan, and even the entire Qi Yuan. It seems reasonable. Being known as the wealthiest Qinhuang in the imperial clan, how could he starve his Wangfei? Finally, with great compassion, he let people prepare water, and then carried his wife to take a bath. He truly served his wife the entire time. Jingwan was lazy. It was Li Hongyuan who kissed her until she was full bit by bit. Jingwan was hungry and didn't have any strength. She couldn't be bothered to haggle over the way he fed her. Fortunately, a certain person didn't go too far. After eating and drinking her fill, she, who had always been devoted to nourishing her body, didn't wait for the food to digest and directly went to sleep. After that, until she woke up the next day, she slept very well. Not only did she not have any dreams, she even turned over a little. Because she wasn't injured, when she woke up, she had regained her strength and energy. Jingwan sat on the edge of the bed and stretched lazily without caring about her image. Suddenly, an arm wrapped around her waist, and then she felt a few gentle touches on her back. After that, a heavy head rested on Jingwan's shoulder. With Wanwan's physique, it's not easy to make you unable to get out of bed for 3 days. A lazy laugh sounded in a low teasing voice. Jingwan pulled his arm away and got up abruptly. She didn't even put on her shoes and hurriedly took a few steps away. Li Hongyuan didn't say anything. Wanwan, you should think carefully about what you did wrong. Jingwan was annoyed. She grabbed a piece of clothing and turned around to walk over. Li Hongyuan even deliberately raised his head and let the clothing fall on his face. Jingwan also saw clearly what it was. It was a doo-doo or something, and she still couldn't help but blush. Li Hongyuan took a few breaths before reaching out to grab it. He smiled at Jingwan and said, "It smells good." Jingwan instinctively knew that he was talking about her and not the clothes. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/66544043. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition website, bicken.com. Chapter 364. Why was she blushing? She was shameless. She also ignored the large discoloration on some parts of her body. Humph. Come here. Jingwan was naked at this moment. Since they got married, Nanny Gong and Jingwan's wet nurse would enter the room first in the morning. Other maids would not enter the room until they were cleaned up. Moreover, Jingwan grew up naked in the eyes of her wet nurse. Even if she was an adult, she had no shame in front of them. However, Li Hongyuan still couldn't help but feel gloomy when his wife was seen naked by others. Therefore, when Nanny Gong came in, she received the malice of Li Hongyuan, which was like the Grim Reaper. Nanny Gong had been used to this kind of thing. She didn't even frown. If you have the ability, you can help your wife dress, bathe and take care of her. If you can't, you should shut up. Among all the servants and subordinates, Nanny Gong was probably the one who was least afraid of Li Hongyuan. Although Jingwan had already put on her clothes, there were no marks on her arms and back. Nanny Gong couldn't help frowning and looked at Li Hongyuan with a disapproving look. For the king of hell, whose flesh was all on his face, it was not painful at all. A thin quilt covered Li Hongyuan's body, leaving only his arms above his head and below his calves exposed. He turned sideways, supported his head with one hand, and looked faintly at Jingwan, who was wrapped up more and more tightly. On such a day, she couldn't just wear a doo-doo and panties for her morning exercise. Speaking of which, Jingwan's body was miserable, and his body was not much better. Who said that only he could leave kiss marks on her body? Although Jingwan had bitten a lot less, she couldn't help but use her teeth. Her nails weren't very long, but they were still very lethal. Forget about the hickeys. As for the lighter ones, they were probably teeth marks that would disappear very quickly, or the nails would leave a faint white mark. The more serious ones were clear teeth marks that were purplish and bleeding, or long scratches where the skin was gone. Did they really think that Jingwon didn't have a temper and didn't know how to fight back after being bullied? Unfortunately, for Lee Hongyuan, this little bit of pain couldn't stop his violence. Instead, it had an aphrodisiac effect. So, in the end, the sad ones are still our Wanwan. After tidying up, Jingwon's black hair was temporarily braided into a hemp flower braid in front of her chest. She walked to the bed and sat down. Looking at a certain someone who still did not want to get up, she used the tip of her hair to sweep the tip of his nose. Yuan, do you want to go to the Luo residence with me today? Lee Hongyuan held Jingwon's hand and lay back down. Go, why not? Isn't it natural for him to accompany his wife back to her parents' home? Then hurry up and get up and exercise. Let me tell you, if your figure is out of shape, be careful that I'll kick you out of the house. Jingwon smiled a little dangerously and patted his abdomen. It turns out that Wanwan only likes my husband's body and doesn't like my person. I'm so sad. Lee Hongyuan snuggled into Jingwon's arms. Jingwon's fingers sank into his hair. TSK, you have such a bad temper. Naturally, you're not as likable as this body. Lee Hongyuan looked up at her. If this body contained a person like Lee Hongming, would you still like it? Jingwon's eyes flashed with disgust. If she really married a person like Lee Hongming, she would rather hide away, eat vegetarian and pray to Buddha, and be an otherworldly expert, regardless of how perfect the body was. Looking at Lee Hongyuan again, apart from this body, she also felt that he was good in every way. Suddenly, she lowered her head and kissed him fiercely. Sure enough, I still like Yuan the most. It doesn't matter if he's useless, as long as he's good to me, that's enough. Even if he was a perverted lunatic, she would not feel any pressure to accept him. Lee Hongyuan clicked his tongue softly. She was obviously a little jealous woman, a little vinegar jar. Why couldn't she be more thorough? Lee Hongyuan got up. Remember to reflect on your own mistakes. Your husband's patience is limited, so the time I give you is also limited. She was moved for less than 3 seconds. Could she still be tired of it? Morning exercise, then bathing, then breakfast. Everything seemed to be done step by step, but everything seemed to be different. However, there was warmth everywhere. After breakfast, Lee Hongyuan went to the study for a while. Maybe there were some follow-up issues that had not been dealt with, or maybe there were other important matters. Little sister, hey, what's wrong? I saw that you were a little absent-minded this morning. Jingwon looked at little sister Hei, a little curious. Little sister Hei used to feel inferior because of Hei Cho. But later, Jingwon removed the factor of inferiority. In essence, she was a very straightforward girl. And when she did things, she was very focused. Basically, there was no time to see negative emotions on her face. So at this moment, Jingwon was inevitably puzzled. Little sister Hei couldn't hide things in her heart, even if it was something difficult to talk about. Speaking of it, it was because of what happened in the Jade Palace yesterday. In order to resist Imperial concubine Su, Fu Rong didn't hesitate to scratch her face. She was also very surprised at that time, but although she didn't do anything, she could guarantee that she absolutely didn't have any thoughts about the prince. To be honest, the prince was gentle and considerate in front of the princess, and was a very good husband. In front of them, there was a bit of the King of Hell's true colors, and it was too late to hide. If such a person could fall in love with, then there was definitely something wrong with the brain. Needless to say, even Jingwon's several maidservants felt that they were quite normal. Jingwon laughed. I thought it was something serious, but it's nothing. I know what you are thinking. What you don't do, and what Fu Rong does, the essence is the same. It's just that your temperament is different, and the things you experience are different. You know that I will solve the problem, and Fu Rong prefers to solve it in her own way, that's all. So don't think too much about it. When I was in Jiangnan, I was still thinking about it. You are about the same age. After returning to the capital, I will start to find a husband for you. After a few days, things will be smooth, and this matter will be put on the agenda. This time, it wasn't only little sister Hay who blushed, the other maidservants were the same. They all muttered that they didn't want to marry. When the age comes naturally, it's time to marry. Who doesn't want to marry? You don't have to be reluctant to part with this princess. Even if you marry, you still have to stay in the prince's mansion. Jingwan said with a bit of banter. If there is someone you like, remember to tell me in advance. Otherwise, when the time comes, if the matchmaking is wrong, don't cry. Jingwan's soul was an adult more than 10 years ago. She had been married for more than half a year. No matter how thin her skin was, it was thick-skinned. Jingwan teased the maidservants until their faces turned red, and her body and mind were very comfortable. About another hour later, they finished packing and went out. However, they happened to meet people from the palace. However, Li Hongyuan didn't even see them and sent them away. Whether they were sent by Emperor Li Qingdi or Imperial concubine Su. In short, they all had a reason. He said he didn't want to see them, and he was so capricious. If others dared to do so, they would try it. Their clothes were more casual, and they didn't use the prince's honor. However, because they brought a lot of things, according to the carriage, the whole group was quite spectacular. Today, except for the minister of the Ministry of Personnel, who entered the palace, the rest of the Luo family were all at home, including the married aunts. No matter if they were the same generation as Jingwan or the previous generation, except for themselves, their husbands and children, they brought all that they could bring back. Of course, there was also Jingwan's maternal family. Those who didn't know would think that there was a big matter in the Luo family. In fact, Jingwan returning to her maternal family was indeed a big matter for them. Jingwan's status rose, and as the closest relative of the Luo family, they naturally paid attention to her. After all, under normal circumstances, they couldn't see Prince Consort Jean. There were only Luo family members waiting at the gate of the Luo family, and the number was not small. In these 2 years, there were no more children of the same generation as Jingwan. But in the younger generation, eldest cousin's son could already walk, and her third brother's daughter could occasionally call her mother. At this moment, Jingwan only felt that time really passed too quickly. However, they were at the gate after all, and the rules still needed to be followed. Seeing the elders greet each other, Jingwan was still slightly uncomfortable. Entering the gate, Li Hongyuan was at the front, and Jingwan supported old Madame Luo as they walked behind. Everyone else followed in an orderly manner. At this time, they didn't say anything, but their eyes were enough to show how much they missed each other. It was just that old Madame Luo's eyes were mixed with gratification, because this granddaughter of hers looked quite good. Her complexion was not worse than when she was in the boudoir, and in some aspects she was even better. Old Madame Luo was satisfied, and some things could be verified again. They went directly to the main courtyard. In the spacious main hall, everyone sat down. Soon, the outsiders, who came to the Luo family, also gathered together and greeted the two people sitting at the head of the table. Li Hongyuan was used to this kind of thing, and Jingwan also needed some time to get used to it. But at the moment, it looked good. At least on the surface, there were no problems. Li Hongyuan also knew that with him around, these women couldn't talk properly. Although he was unwilling, he still led the men of the Luo family away. Once the living Hell King left, the atmosphere immediately livened up. Although because of Jingwan's current status, it naturally couldn't be compared to before she got married. On the other hand, old Madame Luo treated Jingwan as usual, and only then did she carefully look at her. This girl that she had raised in the palm of her hand was really good, and didn't look forced at all. Princess, the things that you brought should be sent directly to each room or what? Mama Gong spoke at the right time. Send directly to each room. There may be a little too many things. Eldest aunt, third aunt, fourth aunt, you all can ask someone to help. Jingwan smiled. Without waiting for them to speak, it was Jingwan's maternal grandmother who stood up first. We'll also go and join in the fun. At this time, those who were tactful should know to make room. Jean Qinhuang Fei had always been raised in front of grandmother, and her biological mother was also present, so at this time, they should naturally give it to them. Good daughter, let's also go and join in the fun. See what good things your aunt has brought for you. Sunijia held her daughter and winked at Jingwan. Thus, the room was quickly left with only Jingwan, old Madame Luo, and Zhangshi, the three masters. There were no outsiders, so Jingwan directly unruly leaned on old Madame Luo. Grandmother, I really missed you. Old Madame Luo was slightly startled. No matter what. Perhaps it was because of her health. Jingwan had always taken care of her. Even if old Madame Luo deliberately did it, Jingwan rarely acted spoiled. If it was still the same as before, even if they met, this granddaughter of hers probably wouldn't be so spoiled. This child was too rational, and most of the time, she was thinking for others. She had always strived to let this granddaughter be like an ordinary girl, able to be carefree and happy in front of the elders. Unfortunately, it didn't happen until she got married. Everyone knew that once a girl got married, she would be even less spoiled, and their focus would no longer be on themselves. Who would have thought that this granddaughter of hers would be the complete opposite? After half a year of marriage, she would naturally take the initiative to act spoiled. She had grown a lot, but became more and more delicate. Those who weren't familiar with Jingwan, or those who had always been by her side, wouldn't be aware of this change. But old Madame Luo's feeling was unusually obvious. She sighed in her heart, and felt even more gratified. It could only be said that Jin Qinhuang held her in the palm of his hand, and really let her be carefree. There was nothing for her to worry about, and he didn't do anything to hurt her. It was him who completely supported her, and that was why she was like this. A woman who lived well in her maternal family, and lived even better in her husband's family. If it could continue, then it was indeed a blessing. Old Madame Luo stroked Jingwan's head. Her granddaughter was a good child. And no matter how many blessings there were, it was worth it and deserved. Because Jingwan married at least a year earlier than expected, at that time, she still had some opinions about Jin Qinhuang in her heart. Now all of her opinions were gone. As long as he was good to her granddaughter, she could treat him as her own grandson. Zhangshi stood at the side, her heart somewhat sour. She wasn't a competent mother, and missed too much in the past. Now, she couldn't be as intimate with her daughter as she was with her grandmother. However, this was also something that couldn't be helped. The only thing she could do now was to not let the relationship become more estranged. Jingwan snuggled in old Madame Luo's arms for a while before she sat up straight again. At this time, she was a little late to realize it. Her face showed a little embarrassment, and she couldn't help but complain a few words about Li Hongyuan. It was all that bastard's fault. Because she was used to it, and met the closest elder. Wasn't this? Old Madame Luo just smiled and didn't point it out. Like this, it was obvious, so there was no need to ask whether it was a good thing or not. Jingwan looked at Zhangshi and smiled. Nyang, are you well? Good. Zhangshi quickly responded. The matters of the second household are all taken care of by your sister-in-law. There's nothing else to worry about. I can't be more idle. When I have nothing to do, I will tease Xianjia. Naturally, it's very good. Jingwan became a Qinhuang Fei. The yin-yangs of the second household all knew that Jingwan didn't like concubines. They became more low-key and honest, to the point that they completely avoided the Luo Rongyan. As time passed, they might even forget about the existence of concubines. In this way, naturally, there wouldn't be any trouble. This was the true harmony between wife and concubines. Jingwan roughly knew the situation inside. As long as they were sensible, she would return the favor. As long as they were well-behaved, the two Shu sisters and that Shu brother wouldn't let them be too bad in the future. That's good. What about you? Is Jiangnan fun? https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654049. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 365. At this moment, The people who came back were all outsiders. And just now Luo Laoforan had also told her some things that she didn't know. Those who came in included Jingwan's maternal grandmother, as well as her maternal aunt, who came to the capital a few months ago, as well as her maternal aunt's cousin, who had not yet married. Her maternal aunt, whose face was thicker than the city walls, had named her third brother Luo Jinghua by name, and even righteously wanted to take her daughter as a concubine, vainly attempting to take the position of a second wife, and even relying on the status of a relative to be above the official wife. Also, her younger sister-in-law had designs on Li Hongyuan, but in the end, she was almost directly pressed into the river by Li Hongyuan's people and was killed. It wasn't that there weren't people who came to propose marriage because of Jingwan, attempting to climb up the ranks of Jin Qinhuangfu in a roundabout way. Unfortunately, this maternal aunt didn't like the other party's family background at all. As for her younger sister-in-law, no one cared about her, dragging it out until now, seeing that she was moving closer and closer to becoming an old lady. She still refused to leave the capital no matter what. Knowing that Jingwan didn't like them, they still shamelessly came to the Luo family's door today. It was nothing more than letting people see that they had a good relationship with Jin Qinhuangfei, paving the way for the future. And the Luo family was worried that if they didn't let them in, they would cause a ruckus outside the door. At that time, the one who would lose face would not only be the Luo family, but also Jingwan. Of the three aunts, eldest aunt was naturally the most familiar with her, and had the best relationship with Yuan Xiaoqiao. Speaking of which, Yuan Xiaoqiao was already married, and her actions were quite swift. The main reason was that she had pushed it back until next year as she was slightly older. Another reason was probably that eldest aunt really liked the man. He was the son of the governor of the capital. After all, Luo Peishan had been promoted to Minister of Appointments, Jingwan had become Jin Qinhuangfei, and Yuan Xiaoqiao's father was in the Ministry of Appointments. It was impossible for her status not to rise. The man who came to propose marriage naturally had a better family background, so it was normal for eldest aunt to be satisfied. Second aunt's family also seemed to be shameless. On the day of Jingwan's coming-of-age ceremony, they also schemed against Luo Jinghua. In the end, they implicated Luo Jingming and directly angered old Madame Luo, who forbade them from coming to visit again. Today they came to the Luo family, because the Luo family didn't chase them away. As for third aunt, Jingwan really hadn't interacted with her alone before. She also hadn't interacted with her cousins in the family. Third aunt's temperament seemed to be a little indifferent to fame and fortune, and the children she brought up were more or less similar to her. Before the Lantern Festival of the first lunar month, the eldest cousin was pregnant again, and the second cousin also had good news. Now they were both out of confinement. The two babies were separated by 2 days, and they were both girls. The eldest cousin's first child was a boy, so it was not a big deal that it was a girl, but the cousin's in-laws were a little dissatisfied. However, with the Luo family's status, they did not dare to say anything on the surface. Because the child was young, they did not bring it along. These people basically came together. Although their expressions were as calm as possible, most of them were unable to express their emotions. Envy, jealousy, surprise, and surprise could all be seen clearly. Not to mention, Madame Luo was an old and experienced person. She basically knew what was going on in a flash. What good things did Wan bring for grandmother today? Show me the gift list, Madame Luo said with a smile. The gift list for Madame Luo and the Minister of Personnel Affairs was already in the hands of Madame Luo's mother. When she heard Madame Luo's words, she hurriedly presented it with a smile. Madame Luo's eyesight was not bad. Opening the gift list, she understood. Sure enough, the gifts were too generous, causing these people to have different thoughts. Although the gifts given to her were definitely thicker than those of the other branches, with her understanding of Jingwan, she could also be sure that the other gifts would not be bad, even if it was the second branch that she had disagreements with. This granddaughter of hers, had never valued worldly possessions. In addition, Jin Qinhuang, who was diligently giving her good things, was probably still stuffing her with money to spend, so she probably did not care about these things. You want to empty out Jin Qinhuang Fu? Madame Luo tilted her head and asked Jingwan with a smile. How could I? I bought them all in Jiangnan. Wang Ye gave me a lot of banknotes and let me buy them for fun. As a result, I bought them all the way and accidentally bought too much. Jingwan said a little bitterly. When I bought them, I didn't take it seriously. After returning to the capital, I found out when I was tidying up. Wang Ye dotes on you, so don't take the money seriously. It's not like the wind blew it over. Grandmother, don't worry, it's just this time. It's just a coincidence. In the future, even if I want to squander it, I probably won't have the chance. Madame Luo nodded and did not say anything more. And these things, she accepted them with a clear conscience and did not feel that there was any problem. Then, whether it was those who wanted to say sour words or those who wanted to compliment, they all swallowed their words back into their stomachs. Today, they would come to the Luo family. Jingwan did not think about it, but even if she thought about it, she would not bring the things she gave them to the Luo family. Afterwards, Jingwan talked with them. She could act coquettishly and foolishly in front of Madame Luo. In front of them, she could be easygoing, but she could not completely put down the airs of a Qin Wangfei. If people felt that a Qin Wangfei was no different from an ordinary woman in the inner residence, who could say anything and still reprimand her like a junior, then it would damage Li Hongyuan's face, and even the dignity of the imperial family. Therefore, lowering herself was not something that could be done if she wanted to. If the relationship between them became too big, it was not something that could be won over with a few words. Yuan Xiaoqiao followed her mother, and did not speak up at this time. At first, she was a little nervous, and worried that the relationship between them would become distant. But after receiving a look from Jingwan, she was relieved. She secretly made a face, and then lowered her eyebrows and hid her eyes, pretending to be obedient. Jingwan laughed secretly. Well, she thought that this cousin of hers had restrained her temperament after getting married. Sure enough, it was easy to change mountains and rivers, but hard to change a person's nature. It turned out that it was all a pretense. Except for that aunt's family and second aunt's family, Jingwan basically did not neglect the others. According to the relationship between them, she could more or less say a few words with a smile. Her attitude was just right so that they did not dare to overstep their boundaries. They also did not feel that Jingwan had become arrogant and looked down on them because of her high status. She did not look like someone who had only been a Qin Wangfei for a little more than half a year. As for those two families, Jingwan made it clear that she did not like them. She did not like them, and had no interest in pretending to be magnanimous and forgiving. If you were magnanimous and forgiving, some people would only take an inch and want a mile. When she was talking to her two cousins, this child has been born. Why didn't someone send a message to me in Jiangnan? Eldest cousin sister Luo Jingshu immediately smiled and said, Prince is on a business trip in Jiangnan. The Wangfei has to serve Prince on the way. It is difficult to disturb him because of a junior. Eldest sister is right. That is the reason. Luo Jingqiang also smiled and agreed. It is a happy occasion to have a son in the family. How can there be a disturbance? In any case, their Wangfei's aunt will definitely come back. This gift will definitely not be lacking. Jingwan smiled and nodded. When we return, I will double the 3 baptismal gifts and the full moon gift. See, it was right not to say this before. There are so many things, aren't there? Luo Jingshu teased. Everyone else also laughed. The atmosphere was quite harmonious, except for some places that were not harmonious. When the children are older, bring them to the prince's mansion to play. Let me take a good look at them. Daughters are like little cotton-padded jackets. Take good care of them. In the future they will definitely be the best. Jingwan said meaningfully. Everyone was smart and naturally understood. Luo Jingshu tilted her head and glanced at Luo Jingqiang. She was still fine. She had a son by her side. This third younger sister wanted to support her second younger sister. However, there was another layer of meaning. As long as they were good girls, as long as their Wangfei aunt was around, their future would not be bad. Giving a pile of good things, compared to promising their children a future, was actually nothing. It was very comforting. Naturally, her smile became more sincere. Luo Jingqiang also understood in her heart, and was very grateful. As long as her daughter received a few good words from her aunt, her status would immediately rise. Those people in her husband's family would not dislike her. Instead, they would pamper and love her as if she was their precious treasure. Even her own status would be more stable. However, the prerequisite for a good future was a good girl. Whether it was in the past or now, they clearly knew that Jingwan was not a stingy person. She was willing to help her family if she could. However, if their character was not good enough, and they did something disgusting, then it would be embarrassing. Even if they met her face to face, she would not bother to say a word to them, let alone receive benefits from her. Therefore, it was very important for the children's upbringing. Regardless of whether those who had a bad relationship with Jingwan regretted it or not. In short, they were determined to teach their juniors well. As for the Luo family who were not present, they would definitely know what Jingwan meant. This would be a good start. Moreover, they would not know that the princess consort was just the beginning of Jingwan's marriage. In the future, she would be the mother of the world, and become the most honorable woman in the world. As for the Luo family, they would be the only relatives. Even if they did not have a high position and high salary, their status was unparalleled. As the saying goes, if one could not climb up to the emperor, then he would naturally climb up to the empress. Climbing up to the empress was naturally to build a relationship with the Luo family, and marriage was still the most mainstream way to build a relationship. There were many high officials, nobles, and even members of the imperial family in the capital. As for the young masters and young ladies of the Luo family, there were definitely not enough. Then, those who were close to the Luo family, as well as those who were purely on good terms with Jingwan, would also be promoted to the top. In this way, even if their status was not high enough, as long as they got Jingwan's word, they would definitely not have to worry about a good marriage. If their character was not good enough, Jingwan would definitely not do things that would cheat people and create resentful couples. Of course, this was something that would happen more than 10 years later, so let's not talk about it for now. As they were gossiping, the masters of the Luo family gradually came over. The adults were still reserved and did not show too much emotion, but the younger ones were quite happy at this time. Jingwan had also prepared the gifts with great care. As long as it was a child, regardless of whether it was the previous generation or the next generation, she would give it to them. Although there were some differences in the status of the legitimate wife and concubines, the difference was not big. The other gifts were given to the husband and wife as a unit. Speaking of which, as the elders, they understood Jingwan's temperament. As the legitimate mother, perhaps when she saw Jingwan giving the concubines' children gifts, she had some thoughts in her heart, but she did not want to embezzle them. At this time, how stupid would she be to do such a thing? As for the third branch, Madame Lu's thoughts had faded. She wholeheartedly taught the legitimate son, and took care of the legitimate daughter. She did not expect Luo Jingying to marry into a good family again. It would be good if she could spend the rest of her life in the Luo family. As for the younger concubine's children, Madame Lu did not treat them harshly. The eldest concubine's son, Madame Lu, also married Luo Jingming's wife into the family. Madame Lu treated this young lady of the Honglu Temple's officials' family with a relatively high status, but she did not make things difficult for her. She did not say that she was a good mother-in-law, but she definitely did not make things difficult for her. She just let the young couple live their own lives. The group of younger ones all smiled and thanked Jingwan. Older sister princess consort first, followed by older sister princess consort behind. The sweet-mouthed ones kept saying auspicious words, while the clumsy ones anxiously followed. The more anxious they were, the more they stuttered, making everyone laugh. The last one was Luo Jingda's eldest son. Although he could walk now, he was not very stable. He swayed from side to side, which was very amusing. He also did not want to be left out, and walked forward. He followed the older one and vaguely called out, "Older sister princess consort." His mother, Madame Lu, followed by his side. She gently slapped his little butt and laughed. "Little brat, what are you saying? You should call princess consort aunt. Aunt, do you understand?" Jingwan reached out and picked up the little one. This child had always been weak when he was in his mother's womb. Although the reason was found later, and he was not born prematurely, he was still relatively weak. After raising him for more than a year, he was now chubby and very cute. Princess consort, don't hold him. This little one is very active, and his skin is tough. Be careful not to hurt him. How could I? As a matter of fact, Jingwan was hugging him tightly. With her strength, how could she not be able to control the little guy? Madame Luo reached out and pinched the little one's chubby hand. Brother Rue is usually a little shy with strangers, but he is very close to Wan Wan. It has been more than half a year, but he still seems to remember. That's right. Our brother Rue doesn't remember anyone, but he can't forget Aunt Princess Consort. If it wasn't for Aunt Princess Consort, you little brat might not have been born, Madame Lu said with a smile. This was her precious baby. Every time she thought that he might be gone at that time, her heart would ache. That's right. That's our brother Rue's fate. Jingwan liked these simple and cute children very much. If they were really gone, she would definitely feel bad. Aunt. Brother Rue was happy in Jingwan's arms, and rubbed against her mischievously. Brother Rue also agrees with Aunt's words, right? Jingwan smiled, and could not stop kissing his little face. The little one held on to Jingwan's face, and kissed her back. This time, Madame Luo was amused. If your uncle sees you, you little brat, you will be punished. Jingwan was a lot more thick-skinned now, so she did not mind her grandmother's teasing. The others also laughed, including the little ones. Although they were not sensible, they were also laughing happily. It's so lively. Sun Yijia came in with her daughter, Sister Xian. Perhaps the little one saw the little brother, so she also stretched out her hand in a babbling voice. Oh, this little one also recognizes people. The people next to her laughed. Sun Yijia was straightforward, and directly carried Sister Xian over. Thus, one on each side of Jingwan's legs. The two little ones were very familiar with each other, and were very affectionate with each other. Princess Consort likes children so much. When are you going to have two? If you ask me, I might have already been born. Even if Jingwan did not like them, they still did not want to be lonely, and wanted to make their presence known. However, when they heard this, Jingwan did not do anything, but the others were silent. Little Wang and Sun Yijia quickly reached out, and wanted to take the children back. If they were really born, the two children would make a fuss. What if something happened? Don't worry, it's fine. The mansion doctor in the mansion will check my pulse at any time. Besides, if there is something wrong with my body, I will be more or less aware. I am very good. However, because of her status, Jingwan did not continue to carry the two little ones. Since the children were returned, she did not mention this again, and did not mention it. After that, the third branch and the fourth branch arrived at almost the same time. This time, Jingwan naturally noticed the unfamiliar face, second sister-in-law Zhao. She was the legitimate daughter of the Honglu Temple. Although she was not very beautiful, she was still delicate and good-looking. She smiled before speaking, and seemed to have a good temper. I finally see second sister-in-law today. Greetings, Princess Consort. Zhao bowed. We are family. There is no need to be so polite. Qingzhu, who was serving at the side, quickly presented the box in her hand. Jingwan took it in her hand. When second sister-in-law married into the family, I was still in Jiangnan. This is a small gift from me. Second sister-in-law, I hope you don't mind. Jingwan did not know about other happy events, but she knew about this marriage. Although they had sent gifts back before the marriage, this meeting gift still had to be made up. Logically, Jingwan should be the one receiving the gift. However, her status was high, so she became the one giving the gift. Zhao quickly took it. Thank you, Princess Consort. I am so happy, how can I dislike it? Second sister-in-law looks like a good person. If second brother bullies you in the future, just tell me. I will help you deal with him. Zhao sure blushed and muttered. My husband treats me very well. As a bride who had just married into the family, she was naturally the target of everyone's teasing. For a moment it was very lively and cheerful. However, Jingwan inadvertently noticed that little Wang's smile was a little forced. Obviously she had something on her mind, After a while, Madame Luo dismissed everyone and asked them to do what they needed to do. I know you have a private room with Yijia and Xiao Xiao. Go go. Madame Luo waved at Jingwan impatiently. Jingwan held Madame Luo's arm. Grandmother, are you disliking your granddaughter? Mischievous. Madame Luo tapped her forehead. Go. Jingwan nodded with a smile. By the way, grandmother, I think something is wrong with eldest sister-in-law. What's the matter? Madame Luo's expression became indifferent. What can it be? The woman in your eldest brother's room is pregnant. No woman can be happy. Back then, when little Wang's pregnancy was unstable, she still said a few words. But now she was too lazy to care. If she didn't care about her son's room, who would have the patience to care about her grandson? Jingwan frowned slightly and could only sigh. To be honest, even if he was her biological brother, she was already overstepping her boundaries by not allowing him to touch any woman other than third sister-in-law. There was no reason for her to care about her cousin. Grandmother, you can reveal that I don't like concubines. Madame Luo glanced at Jingwan and sighed. You are still the same. Jingwan didn't care. I can't help it. If I don't like it, I don't like it. No matter how many lifetimes it is, this won't change. Eldest sister-in-law is a good woman. If I can help a little, I will. I can't do anything more. However, if Wang Yemai likes and dislikes, it will probably affect some people's career. Madame Luo didn't doubt these words. If Jin Qinhuang's feelings towards his granddaughter didn't change, then whether it was for Jingwan or Jin Qinhuang himself, the more concubines there were in the inner court, especially those who favored the concubines and neglected the wife, they would definitely not be able to gain any advantage in front of him. Not to mention other things. Jin only guards one wife. What is the meaning of you courtiers hugging left and right? If his wife was unhappy, then he would cut them even more, cut them to death. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654054. HTML chapter error. Please click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website. Chapter 366. Since Wanwan has said so, then this old woman will meddle in other people's business again. Who asked this granddaughter to be the apple of her eye? Moreover, this granddaughter of hers was not only for her sister-in-law, but also for the Luo family. The Luo family did not seem obvious now, but in the future, if there were no accidents, it would not be an exaggeration to say that it would be like adding oil to a fire. Everything had to be done carefully. There were some things that were completely ignored now, but in the future, it would become worse, and it would be easy for others to take advantage of. Grandmother, I'll have to trouble you, but it's better not to kill anyone, no matter if it's a big one or a small one, especially this small one, because she has no right to choose. She is really innocent. In Jingwan's opinion, either she did not want to get pregnant, or if she did, she should not easily abort it. If it was because she had no choice, then it was fine. If it was purely for some kind of benefit, then it was ruthless. But if it was purely for some kind of evil, then it was absolutely unforgivable to let the woman suffer in the end. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Don't worry, this will be a lesson to him. If he is only afraid of affecting his future, then he will have a child and kill that Tongfang. This kind of person is not worth nurturing. Even if he can establish a household for a while, it won't last long. Jingwan suddenly thought of Patriarch Pei, who had worked hard all his life, putting benefits above all, and used the name of the family as a banner. In the end, before they returned to the capital, it was said that he was bedridden and could not get out of bed. That's enough. Don't worry about these trivial matters. You're just doing chores in the prince's mansion, and you have a bunch of people to help you. Now that you're back at home, you're worrying about this and that. What's wrong with you? If the prince finds out, you might not be allowed to come back in the future. Old Madame Luo patted Jingwan's hand. Go. He dares. Jingwan stubbornly retorted. Whether he dares or not, you know best in your heart. Old Madame Luo teased. Jingwan immediately wilted. That bastard really dared. Although she usually had the final say. But once someone became unyielding, she really could not change his mind. Old Madame Luo's mocking expression became more and more obvious. People like Jin Qinhuang, from some of his actions and style, could be seen that he was an absolutely powerful person, with a strong desire for control. If he didn't want to make him listen to others for everything, it was simply a fool's dream. It was because she understood this point that old Madame Luo knew that he accommodated and pampered Jingwan's eyes. If one's mind was not firm, then one's eyes, then one would be spoiled. If they were spoiled, their temperament would be different. To a certain extent, it would be easy for them to be annoyed by others. Then, all the love and affection might be taken away. It would be fine if they didn't get it in the first place. But if they got it, and it was mercilessly taken away, that would be a very cruel thing. No matter how a person's changes, even from one extreme to the other, if there was a person who remained the same from beginning to end, then that was an even more inconceivable thing. In this regard, old Madame Luo had never said anything to Jingwan. Firstly, even if this granddaughter was spoiled, she would not be that bad. Secondly, perhaps she was actually looking forward to seeing her granddaughter's spoiled appearance. The Haitang elegant residence was still kept. If there were no accidents, after 6 or 7 years, this courtyard would be given to Xian Jie to live in. The so-called accident was that the 2 elders of the Luo family had both passed away in the past few years. The Luo brothers had split up, and the second branch had moved out of this residence. The possibility of this accident should be relatively small. However, Jingwan also pondered in her heart. Later on, she would let Gong Jiu come to the Luo family to take the 2 elders' pulse. Jingwan now had more and more trust in Gong Jiu's medical skills. When Jingwan arrived at the Haitang elegant residence, as expected, Sun Yijia and Yuan Xiaoqiao were waiting there. Greetings, Wang Fei. The 2 pretended to greet her. It was clearly a very normal thing. But Jingwan suddenly felt as if she had been struck by lightning. That's enough, you 2. Are you deliberately making fun of me? When the 2 heard this, they stood up straight and giggled. You are now a proper Qin Wang Fei. As the saying goes, etiquette cannot be abolished. Alright, then you 2 can squat. Even if you kneel, I don't mind. In any case, I am a Qin Wang Fei. I can accept it. I'm not afraid of my lifespan being shortened. Jingwan brushed her sleeves and prepared to sit down. I'm calling you fat and you're panting, Sun Yijia said as she made a move to pinch her. Jingwan hurriedly dodged, and the 3 of them laughed together. Because of their status, the gap between them disappeared without a trace. After a long while they sat down to talk. To tell the truth, when I saw Wan Wan's previous appearance, I really felt that she wasn't on the same side as us. She was dignified and had style, making people not dare to act rashly. I'm really afraid that our relationship would become estranged. Yuan Xiaoqiao's heart was distressed. If it really became like that, it would be quite regretful. You're thinking too much. We still don't know what kind of person Wan Mimi is. For the dignity of the imperial family and Jin Qinhuang, on the surface, it should be maintained. In private, don't mention being a Qin Wang Fei even. I think that Wan Mimi is still Wan Mimi. This point will never change. Sun Yijia adapted well. After all, she had interacted with many people in the imperial family. A lot of people might have changed, but some things would never change. Yuan Xiaoqiao didn't understand the ambiguous words that Sun Yijia used, but Jingwan was clear. This was just a metaphor. Or did this sister-in-law's best friend notice something? Sun Yijia just happened to meet Jingwan's eyes. She smiled and didn't say anything. Don't say Sun Yijia's temperament now, whether it was internally or externally, was much gentler. If compared to before Jingwan knew her, those who didn't know would definitely think that they were 2 different people. She used to be proud, distant and aloof. Now she was gentle and did things straightforwardly. Perhaps she still didn't like to interact with people. But it didn't mean that she wasn't good at interacting with people. The second branch didn't care about the general affairs of the Luo family. Therefore, she was still very idle. Most of the time, she would take care of her husband and children. When she went out for a very formal occasion, she would put on makeup to cover the scars on her face. When she was at home, she basically didn't wear any makeup. The Luo family members were used to it. Sun Yijia's relationship with the people and things of the past could be said to be very clean. Originally, because of her temperament, there were a lot of people who flattered and fawned over her. But there were basically no true friends. Her face was disfigured and she got married. But the husband she married didn't need her diplomatic relations. Those people naturally broke off completely. Her mother, Duke Foreign, was still ill and couldn't get better. For the time being, there were no signs of death. She wanted to go back and take a look, but when she went back once or twice, her grandmother didn't even give her food and sent her away. She just wanted her to live her own life in peace. Don't look at, don't ask, and don't care about the troublesome things in Duke Dinggua's mansion. Duke Dinggua's mansion was really quite chaotic now. Because old Madame Sun was still alive, the brothers of Duke Dinggua were all in the mansion. They all inherited the virtue of the old Duke Dinggua. They were greedy and lustful, so naturally, there were many children. Among the brothers of the older generation, sisters-in-law, and the brothers and sisters of the younger generation, cousins and cousins, there were also cousins outside. Without the master to hold the line, all of them wanted to compete for power and profit. The original contradictions instantly broke out 10 times, or 100 times. The men were busy with external affairs. Not only were they fighting with other factions, but they were also doing their best to be in power. Not to mention other things, Sun Yijia's eldest brother, because Sun Yilin was not around, wanted to completely control Duke Dinggua's mansion. Who knew that the second brother, who had always been very weak, suddenly appeared. He was originally a quiet person, but he didn't expect that he also held a lot of power. The brothers fought against each other like fire and water. If they didn't fight to the death, they would never let it go. After Sun Yijia got some news, she didn't care anymore. Anyway, in her opinion, Duke Dinggua's mansion would be finished sooner or later. It was good enough that the Sun family could still maintain their status as a third-class family. It could be said that she sighed again and again that she was lucky. Her husband was ambitious. The most important thing was that he was not fickle in love. He was very good to her and the children. When a woman got married, it was like a second reincarnation. That was all she wanted. Sun Yijia felt that she had nothing more to ask for in this life. Of course, she still lacked a son. She just needed to take care of her body for another year and have another child. Even if she didn't have a son in the end, it might be a little regretful. But her life could be said to be perfect. Just by looking at your face, I can tell that you must be living a very good life. I'm too lazy to ask if you're doing well. We don't have the chance to go to Jiangnan. What fun is there? Jingwan brushed away Sun Yijia's hand. What are you doing? If you have something to say, let's talk nicely. Don't hit me. Where did you learn this from? You're always pinching people's soft flesh. What kind of behavior is that? Sun Yijia sneered and grabbed Jingwan's hand. She even pinched Jingwan's face before she stopped. Your face is as thick as my daughter's. Well, it turned out that the reason for her cheap hands was because the children were too soft and tender. Therefore, she developed the habit of touching and pinching people's faces. Yuan Xiaoqiao's line of sight fell on Jingwan's exposed arm. She grabbed it and pulled up the sleeve. On the snow-white and delicate skin, there were red plum blossoms. What is this? What is it? That gaze was as if she had caught hold of something big. She was excited and excited. Jingwan was speechless at these two girlfriends who were becoming more and more strange. Married people don't know what this is. You don't have it on your body. Yuan Xiaoqiao choked on Jingwan's words. She coughed. I do have it, but it's not as exaggerated as yours. Jin Qinwang really likes Wan Mimi. I can finally rest assured. Sun Yijia acted as if she was marrying off her daughter. She was somewhat gratified and somewhat melancholy. I say, you two, that's enough. Sure enough, unmarried girls were pure and innocent. After marriage, they all became vulgar. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Hurry and tell us about Jiangnan's scenery. Compared to before, Jingwan was more detailed now. Her attitude was also more casual. After all, they were of the same age. Moreover, they were close friends. As the saying goes, the things that can't be said to elders can be said to girlfriends. This mentality was completely different, hiding the things that can't be said. Although Jingwan didn't speak in cadence, the two listened happily and yearned for it. If you want to go, it's not very difficult. Cousin won't talk about it. Your husband is sent out to Jiangnan. In any case, he's not the eldest son. It doesn't matter if you don't stay to serve your parents-in-law. It's even simpler for third sister-in-law. Just let third brother take you and your mother out. There's still more than a year before the next exam. It's just that it's easy to say. Sun Yijia reached out to pinch her face again. A good woman uses her mouth, not her hands. Jingwan glared at her. Then I'm really sorry. Your sister-in-law is a bad woman. Sun Yijia continued to pinch her with a smile. What happened to being a virtuous woman from a prestigious family? Her style had changed too much. Return the Sun Yijia of the past. Things are really not that simple. My family wants to let my husband stay in the capital and gain experience in the Hanlin Academy. I guess my father-in-law and the others also want my grandfather to help and slightly raise my husband's rank. Whether or not he will be sent out in the future is another matter. Moreover, my mother-in-law wants to have a grandson. Sister-in-law has already given birth to 3 daughters. There's a concubine's son, but because my mother-in-law doesn't like his mother, the child is naturally not liked. I've only been married for 2 months, and they've already started to stare at my belly. I think that if I can't give birth to this son, I won't be able to leave happily. Yuan Xiaoqiao was her mother's only daughter. She knew very well how much her mother had suffered in order to get a son. However, whether it was her father or her grandmother, they were both good people. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to live her life. She might not have been as lucky as her mother. Therefore, even if her mother-in-law's family didn't say anything, she was still unhappy that they kept staring at her belly. Yuan Xiaoqiao didn't say these things. However, Yuan Xiaoqiao wasn't very good at controlling her emotions. Jingwan and Sun Yijia weren't blind. Jingwan didn't know about the capital governor's family's situation, but Sun Yijia knew. Every family had its own difficulties. This couldn't be helped. Moreover, since the other party was carefully selected by eldest aunt, he must be a good person. Jingwan didn't ask too much. You didn't tell me that you got married either. I'll make up for the dowry I gave you later. It's a big one. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Anyway, Wan, you're super rich now. It doesn't matter how much you give me. Obviously, Yuan Xiaoqiao didn't quite understand Jingwan's main intention. However, there was no need to fuss over such a small matter. It was fine as long as the person who should understand it understood. Actually, life now is very good. It's something I didn't even dare to think about in the past. Therefore, I'm very satisfied. Although I have some yearning for the outside world, I don't have to go. There's still more than a year before the next examination. It's better for your third brother to stay in the capital to prepare for the examination. After all, he has grandfather to guide him. Also, your third brother spends a lot of time on painting. This arrangement is good. If you want to go out and have a look, you can wait until your third brother leaves. Yes, Sun Yijia wasn't greedy. She really cherished what she had. I've painted some paintings. When you go to the prince's mansion, calling Shuang, I'll show you. Naturally, the two nodded happily. Speaking of Ing Shuang, how is she recently? She's nurturing the baby. She's been pregnant for about 6 months. She's put on a lot of weight. Jingwan chuckled. She's been gone for half a year. She's met with so many happy things. It couldn't be better if they were all happy things. When it came to children, it was inevitable that the topic would come back to Jingwan. However, before they could speak, Princess Consort, missing requests an audience. A servant reported, missing. Jingwan was confused. Where did this missing come from? Luo Xiying is an orphan in the clan. Didn't fourth sister die of an illness in Prince Rui's mansion? Third aunt lost her beloved daughter and wanted to adopt a girl from the clan to relieve her lovesickness. Unexpectedly, there was a girl in the clan who looked very similar to fourth sister. People would believe that they were twins. Coincidentally, this girl didn't have parents and relied on the clan to survive. Third aunt brought her back and raised her by her side. She changed her name to Seeing. Sun Yijiao explained. Jingwan immediately understood. Sure enough, third aunt was worried about Luo Jingying being outside. As expected, she used the simplest method to bring Luo Jingying back to her side. Jingwan wasn't surprised that she came to see her. In fact, Luo Jingying was among the gifts she prepared. Please come in. Princess consort, Missing is afraid of strangers. Does that mean that you can move? What is this? She is just a commoner. She came to visit the princess consort and asked the princess consort to move. How shameless must she be to do such a thing? Yuan Xiaoqiao said indignantly. Obviously, she didn't know the truth. However, this matter involved the reputation of the imperial family. It was best not to know. She believed that there were only a few people in the minister's mansion who knew about this. It's not a big deal. Maybe this girl is really a little timid. I'll just go and take a look. It seemed that Luo Jingying had something to say to her, but did not want others to know. Seeing Jingwan get up and leave, Yuan Xiaoqiao pursed her lips. Even if Wan is a princess consort, she is still like this. Alright, since you know, there's no need to say more. Sun Yijiao's thoughts were similar to Jingwan's. In the begonia house, there was a small pavilion not far from the courtyard. When Jingwan arrived, Luo Jingying was already waiting there. When Luo Jingying saw Jingwan, she stood up and greeted her politely. No need to be so polite. Have a seat. Jingwan looked at her. Although she was still dressed as a girl, she had changed a lot. As long as people didn't know the truth, no matter how similar they were, they wouldn't think that she and Luo Jingying were the same person. She used to be so flamboyant, but now she was plain and even dull. She looked a little lethargic, and didn't have the vigor and vitality that people her age should have. She looked like a living dead person. Jingwan sighed in her heart. Luo Jingying was hateful in the past, but the damage she caused was limited. She had already committed suicide in front of her once. Selfishly, she let bygones be bygones. Of course, the premise was that she didn't do it again. Otherwise, there was no way she could be forgiven. Fourth sister, why did you want to see me? Although I look like Princess Consort's fourth sister, I don't deserve to be called by Princess Consort. Did she have to completely deny her past? Then, I'll call you Seeing. If there's anything you want to say, just say it. Luo Jingying was silent for a moment. She probably didn't expect Jingwan to accept it so easily. If the others weren't like her mother, they would talk endlessly or ignore her. She looked at Jingwan quietly. In fact, until now, she didn't understand why there was someone like Luo Jingwan in the world. How could she forgive others so easily? I heard that Luo Jingying used to target you and scheme against you. How could you forgive her? Jingwan laughed. Even now she was still fussing about this? It's just a child's quarrel. Moreover, it's your own life. Whether you want to live a happy life, or let some messy things and negative emotions disturb your life, the choice is in your own hands. So, in the end, you still don't care about such a small person. Was she going down a dead end again? How she is has nothing to do with you Seeing. Or is it because third aunt treated you as her substitute, and you're not happy? Third aunt aside, Luo Jingying is Luo Seeing and Luo Seeing is Luo Seeing. If you think so, then why did you let the Luo Jingying of the past interfere with the current Luo Seeing? Seeing, you understand what I mean, right? Luo Jingying still looked at Jingwan quietly. Then, tears rolled down unconsciously, and she hurriedly wiped them away. In fact, she hadn't cried since she woke up from her coma after committing suicide. No matter how hard her mother hugged her and cried, no matter what she said, no matter how sorry she was, or how she would take good care of her in the future, she didn't feel anything. Now tears fell easily. She denied her past, but only verbally. Her heart was still brooding. Otherwise, if she really denied it and let it go, she wouldn't be like this now. Thank you, Your Highness. Her mother only said the same things over and over again. If it happened once or twice, she might be moved. But if it happened too many times, she would be annoyed. Her mother asked her to forgive her. But how could she forgive her? Even if her mother was wrong, it was just some of the ideas she had instilled in her. But she also knew that she was the one who caused the situation in the end. The more she said, the more she would hate herself and be angry with her mother. In the past, she would make a big fuss, but now, she maintained absolute silence. It turned out that she could actually completely let go in exchange for a complete new life. I had a dream. I dreamed of Luo Jingying. She said that she owed Your Highness an apology and a thank you. She also hoped that Your Highness would be safe and have a smooth life. This humble girl will take her leave. Jingwan nodded. You too. Luo Jingying left. As for whether she would truly be reborn, it was up to her. Jingwan returned to the inner courtyard. Sun Yijia and Yuan Xiaoqiao were chatting. When they saw her, they asked, "She left so quickly?" It was just a matter of a few words. She naturally left after saying that. Jingwan sat down. What happened in the capital in the past 6 months? Actually, it's nothing much. It's probably because of what happened in Jiangnan that His Majesty didn't go to the Summer Palace. In any case, because His Majesty was in a bad mood, the imperial court and the imperial harem were all covered in dark clouds. Speaking of which, it has nothing to do with us. And people like grandfather, who didn't get involved in such matters, were also very calm. What's more interesting is that their concubines are all from opposing factions. For example, Prince Rui's 2 concubines. One is from a closely connected family of Duke Ding's manor by marriage. The other is from the Marquis Champion's manor, and is Princess Gong's younger cousin. Prince Kang's concubine is the niece of the right commander-in-chief Shen Shuhan. The other concubines are basically in similar situations. The one with the least impact is probably Prince Wu. After all, because of his weak body, he didn't interfere with the imperial court's matters at all. Thus, it doesn't matter which family he marries. Speaking of which, these Wangya left the position of concubine largely because they wanted to rope in connections through marriage at crucial times. Now they were lifting a stone and smashing it on their own feet. It's a pity that those concubines have purely become the family's abandoned children. And as people from opposing factions, their husbands can't possibly treat them well. Those who have a bit of conscience may be raised as ornaments in the inner courtyard. Encountering those who fly into a rage out of humiliation and take their anger out on them. Who knows what kind of state they will be trampled on. Jingwan's voice was indifferent. In her heart, she hated Luqingdi's way of doing things. This way of doing things, other than harming those innocent women, could it have the effect of a copper coin? Even if the method of using in-laws to rope in people was curbed, there would still be other methods. Did he really think that his sons would be obedient? Isn't that so? Sun Yijia's heart was distressed. Wan, now that you're back, will His Majesty also directly appoint 1 or 2 concubines for Prince Jean? No matter what, Prince Jean is her most beloved son. She can't favor one and discriminate against the other. Yuan Xiaoqiao looked at Jingwan with some worry. Prince Jean cursed his wife. With that fate of his, it's already not bad to be able to meet Wan Mimi. Forget about those women with low status in the past. They don't have any status. Among the noble ladies, he still wants to hug them left and right. Dream on. With a wife like Wan Mimi, if he still does something to let Wan Mimi down, he should be struck by lightning. Sun Yijia's expression was cold. Yuan Xiaoqiao was a bit surprised by Sun Yijia's sudden change in attitude. Yijia, you have an opinion about Prince Jean? Although his reputation was bad before, after he was engaged to Wan, there didn't seem to be any news of him having an affair with other women. Now, it seems that he's treating Wan quite well. Can't we slightly change our view of him? I don't have an opinion about him. I have an opinion about Wan Mimi's husband. As Wan Mimi's husband, no matter how much he does, it's not enough. No matter how well he does, it's not good enough. Don't mention Yuan Xiaoqiao. Even Jingwan was a bit speechless. What was this? It seemed that she didn't have such high expectations for her own husband. You don't have to worry. If there really is such a matter, we will deal with it. At this moment, Jingwan thought of another matter. She vaguely knew where she was wrong. She rubbed her temples somewhat helplessly. To have such a husband, it was really a sweet burden. A certain person always wanted her to do something from time to time, to prove that she cared about him. Was this a lack of security or what? It shouldn't be possible that he didn't have a sense of security. After all, in this kind of background, she didn't have a choice. She couldn't get a divorce, and she couldn't have a second spring. As long as he didn't let go, she could only be held in the palm of his hand. In the countryside, there might be cases of married women eloping with others. For someone like her, if she dared to do that on the surface, she wouldn't exterminate the family for the sake of face. But behind the scenes, she would definitely kill your entire family. Not to mention that the success rate of eloping was extremely low. Even if it was successful, she would still be able to find you at the ends of the earth. Therefore, the one who didn't have a sense of security was a woman, not a man. Even now, she wouldn't feel insecure, okay? Therefore, it was purely his heart's paranoia. Thinking of all these, Jingwon hooked the corner of her mouth and laughed to herself. That man was really becoming more and more attractive. What are you thinking about that you're laughing like this? Sun Yijia couldn't help but want to pinch her. Jingwon brushed away her hand. Go to one side, go to one side. Is there anything else? That smile on the corner of her mouth couldn't be suppressed. The two people at the side looked at each other. With such amorous feelings, it would be strange if there was no problem. It seemed that Jin Qinhuang treated her better than they expected. That's fine, they didn't need to worry about it. The other matter, it's probably that the Zhong Qinhuang Fu caught fire and suffered heavy casualties. Wan Fengfei was directly burned into charcoal, and the other two Zifei of the Zhong Qinhuang also lost their lives. It's just that one died on the spot, and the other held on for a few more days. The Zhong Qinhuang himself could be considered lucky, but his injuries were also very serious, and he is still recuperating. As for the many heirs of the Zhong Qinhuang Fu, only 2 or 3 were saved, but they were basically infertile. Jingwon's breathing stopped. It was man-made. If it was just an accident, how could the casualties be so heavy? Many people thought so, but after investigating, they couldn't find the real culprit. In the end, they had to settle this matter as an accident. Jingwon slightly frowned. This matter was obviously problematic, and Jingwon's first reaction was that it was Wan Fengfei's doing. However, Wan Fengfei was trapped in the backyard of the Zhong Qinhuang Fu, and was all alone. Did she have the ability to drag the entire Zhong Qinhuang Fu down with her? That one of her family definitely knew about this matter, but didn't tell her. She had to go back and properly ask. Is there anything else? Jingwon then asked, putting this matter aside for the time being. Other than that, it's just some trivial matters. It's nothing more than this family marrying off their daughter, that family marrying off their wife, and so on. Jingwon nodded. She felt that she should go back and directly ask the shadow guards who stayed in the capital. They definitely knew more than these two close friends' family members, and were clearer about it. After saying so much, time actually slipped away very quickly. Xianjie began to look for her mother. Although Xianjie was younger than Ruiji by half a year, she didn't weigh much less. However, because her body was very fleshy, she didn't look very fat. Her pair of big eyes were like 2 juicy grapes, looking exceptionally lively. Jingwon didn't hug her again. After all, she had a lot of accessories on her body and was very active. She was worried that she would hurt her, so she held Xianjie's little hand and played with it. Previously, when talking about children, she wanted to ask Jingwon about it, but because of Luo Jingying, she changed the topic. Is there really no movement in your belly? Yuan Xiaoqiao stared at Jingwon's belly and said quite bluntly, You've been whispering sweet nothings to each other for half a year. How come you're not pregnant? Jingwon rolled her eyes at her. I'll only be 16 in the 2nd month after the new year. What's the hurry? Besides, now is not the time. Sun Yijia understood immediately. It seemed that some of her guesses were most likely correct. She was now in the Luo family. Grandfather had been teaching her husband and several uncles attentively, and had more or less revealed some things to them. Luo Jingbo basically didn't hide anything from her. According to Sun Yijia's intelligence, she would more or less find some clues. Jingwon's words were basically a kind of affirmation. It was better to be closer to the person who sat on the throne. Jingwon glanced at her, and the two of them smiled tacitly. Yuan Xiaoqiao, however, was still confused. Did she have to deliberately choose the time to give birth to a child? Time passed by just like that. When it was time for lunch, it was lively, but there was no trouble. After lunch, Jingwan threw her husband aside and took an afternoon nap in old Madame Luo's room. After waking up, she spent another 2 hours with old Madame Luo until Li Hongyuan couldn't bear it anymore and personally came to old Madame Luo's room to catch her. Jingwan took the initiative to hold his hand in front of the elders and pacified him, so he didn't lose his temper. However, Li Hongyuan still said goodbye with a cold face. Old Madame Luo saw this and was quite amused. The rumored dissolute and playboy was actually infatuated. She had to say that it was quite unexpected. You've been back for so long, it's about time. After all, Wang Ye's identity is different. It's not good to stay for too long. Wan and Wang Ye should go back early. If you really miss them, you can come back in a few days. Now that we've just returned to the capital, there are so many eyes watching us. It's not good to stay for too long, Li Hongyuan said patiently. Jingwan glanced at him. He didn't mean what he said. This man clearly wanted her to completely forget about her family and only have him in her heart. Then we'll go back first. But if there's anything, grandmother must send someone to tell me. Okay, I know. You're such a worrisome girl. You should worry more about Wang Ye. Li Hongyuan nodded. That's right. What she said was really right. The people in the residence gathered together to respectfully send them off. Outside the gate, just as they were about to get into the carriage, Jingwan suddenly turned around. Mother. Awan. Wang Fei, what orders do you have? Everyone could see that Madame Zhang had something to say to her. On the way out, her eyes were always on Jingwan. Based on how shallow her tears were, it was already not easy for her to not cry until now. Mother, after a while, the early plum blossoms in falling plum house will bloom, right? At that time, can you cut a few for me and send them to the Wangfu? Father won't feel bad, right? Madame Zhang naturally agreed. Because Luo Rongyan was a man, even if he was her biological father, he didn't have the opportunity to talk to Jingwan. How could he refuse his daughter when she wanted something? Not to mention a few plum blossoms, he couldn't wait to give the entire tree to her. However, Luo Rongyan also knew that his daughter didn't want plum blossoms. What she wanted was affection. There was some estrangement between them and her. Now that Jingwan was willing to mend it, it was naturally good. When the time comes, Father will personally cut them for you. Jingwan nodded with a smile and said a few words to her brothers and sisters. The three of them were a little excited. After all, Jingwan wasn't close to them. Moreover, her status was high now, so they didn't dare to look for her. After getting into the carriage, Li Hongyuan naturally hugged Jingwan in his arms. At first he was quiet and didn't speak. After about 10 minutes, Li Hongyuan softly said, Father-in-law has the talent to be an official. Jingwan was a little confused. Father-in-law came to talk to me before and asked me some questions. Then, I realized that father-in-law is quite keen on official matters. If he is determined to become an official, then he will definitely not be below your grandfather in the future. Jingwan was a little surprised at first, then she became silent. After a moment she said, Grandmother said that father is actually the most intelligent of the brothers. Father was even prepared to be an official successor that grandfather wanted to cultivate. However, later on, father was really not interested in official matters. He doesn't like to fight against each other. He doesn't like to deal with those people in the officialdom. He can't be considered a pure scholar. He likes to be romantic and fiddling with gold and stone objects. If he wants to be an official, it will probably be because of me. In Jingwan's eyes, her father was a person who liked romance, pursued casual pursuits, and was indifferent to fame and fortune. It's enough for you to have me. You don't need him to support you. He can continue to be carefree. Jingwan laughed. Father is actually very stubborn in his bones. I heard that when he didn't want to follow grandfather's path, grandfather didn't indulge him in the beginning. The father and son fought for a long time, but grandfather compromised in the end. Although grandfather still cared about the younger generation's own wishes, it is enough to show that father is a person who can't turn back once he has made up his mind. If he has really made up his mind, even if you and I persuade him, it will be useless. In that case, let him be. What he is doing now is not obvious. He will slowly climb up. In the future, there will be a time for him to show his skills. Anyway, as long as he is a talent, it doesn't matter who he uses. This prince's father-in-law will do his best. Naturally, it will be easier to use him. Why not? Therefore, even if it was his father-in-law who dared to steal his wife's attention, he couldn't blame him for being ruthless. Moreover, it was his father-in-law who sent himself to his door. His wife couldn't say that he didn't treat his father-in-law as a person, but as an animal. Along the way, the two of them were whispering sweet nothings into each other's ears when suddenly, a woman's sobbing voice came from outside. It was filled with hidden bitterness and tenderness. Your Highness, come out and see this servant, okay? This servant misses you, really misses you. I beg you, this servant just wants to see you one last time. This way this servant can die in peace. Your Highness. Jingwan raised her head and looked at Li Hongyuan faintly. The woman outside, is she calling you Your Highness? Li Hongyuan didn't feel guilty at all. Probably. One of the 7 days of favor? Perhaps. Li Hongyuan even leaned back to find a more comfortable position. Then, does Your Highness want to say something? What should I say? Isn't this Wan's matter? This prince doesn't need to remind Wan of this kind of thing again and again. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654058. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 367. Right now it was a relatively lively road. Since the woman started to block the road, there were many people who stopped in their tracks, with a strange excitement and agitation. After all, as ordinary people, they had a strong curiosity about all kinds of gossip about people of different social classes. This would often become a topic for them to talk about. Perhaps at some point, their saliva would splatter everywhere. But because there were guards opening the way, those people did not dare to get too close. After learning from some insiders that this was Jin Qinhuang's carriage, many people's hearts were filled with fear. It was enough to see that Jin Qinhuang's prestige was very popular among the common people. However, today, Jin Qinhuang Fei was returning to her maternal home. Jin Qinhuang might not be in the carriage, but Jin Qinhuang Fei would definitely be there. Inexplicably, some people became excited again, as if they were injected with chicken blood. What fear was temporarily thrown to the side. There were only 2 words floating in their minds. Big show. It could be said to be calling for thousands of times. Of course, they only dared to say it in their hearts. The curtain of the carriage was finally lifted. These ordinary people had never seen Jin Qinhuang Fei before. But looking at this imposing manner, she should undoubtedly be Jin Qinhuang Fei. Not to mention other things, just seeing the true face of a Qinhuang Fei was enough to show off for a while. She was beautiful and was different from them. She looked gentle and soft, kind and amiable. This kind of woman, as long as it was a man, they would be willing to take good care of her. They only dared to think about it, and would never have any blasphemous thoughts. But how would Jin Qinhuang Fei deal with this matter? They were afraid that she would suffer a loss. However, when this Qinhuang Fei opened her mouth, it was completely different from what they had expected. Most people's hearts were only left with astonishment, followed by fear. When Jingwan's voice fell, the people who had a good impression of her immediately changed. Vicious femme fatale. One may know a person's face but not their heart, and so on. A dignified Qinhuang Fei unexpectedly did not have the capacity to tolerate people. She was just a woman who had once served Jin Qinhuang. Even if she was not happy and did not want to see her, she could just send her away. But when she opened her mouth, she wanted a life and regarded a life as grass. This kind of person was in a high position, who knew how many people would die in her hands. Qinhuang Fei. Woo woo woo. Jingwan had spoken. The guards naturally would not be polite. It should be known that these people, other than carrying out orders, did not have a heart of stone. Protective feelings for the fairer sex. What the hell was that? As for the beauties, Jingwan didn't give them a second glance. She still had that faint smile on her face as she glanced around. Just one glance was enough to make everyone shudder out of fear. It was as if they said another word, or even if they had any bad thoughts, she would immediately know. Then, like that woman, they would be fed to the fish in the moat. Jingwan had expected the consequences of doing such a thing in public, but it didn't matter. The man in the carriage had done many things to make her happy. In that case, why couldn't she do something to please him? But speaking of human lives, Jingwan looked back at Eunuch Mu. Her meaning could not be more obvious. In the past, a certain someone didn't know what was going on with those women, but as his number one lackey, he definitely knew about this kind of thing. He even had the account book. Eunuch Mu trembled under Jingwan's gaze. Qin Wangfei, His Highness has given this woman to, he quickly recalled in his mind. Who did he give her to? Who did he give her to? It had been a long time, and there were too many things that he had to remember. How could he remember such things? However, since the princess consort had asked, he had to think hard even if he couldn't remember. He had to remember quickly. Although Eunuch Mu remained calm, Jingwan knew that he couldn't remember it. She's not from the villa? Qin Wangfei no. Eunuch Mu was very sure about this. In that case, find out who he gave her to. Send her back, and tell him that I'm very angry about it. Her seemingly careless tone made Eunuch Mu feel inexplicably terrified. He had an illusion that he was facing the king of hell. Was it true that one was marked by the company one kept? No. Qin Wangfei was such a kind person. Would she become the same as His Highness in the future? Thinking of that scene, a living king of hell was enough to make people suffer. If there was a king of hell's wife, would they just kill themselves? Because it was too horrible. Muan, what are you thinking about? Or did you not hear what I said? Do you need me to repeat it? Jingwan said with a smile. Eunuch Mu only felt more chill in his heart. It was even more horrible than His Highness speaking with a cold face. Qin Wangfei, I heard it clearly. You don't need to repeat it. Very good. Do it quickly. Jingwan stroked her sleeves indifferently, turned around, and entered the carriage. Then she saw the living king of hell, who supported his cheek with one hand, and smiled extremely seductively. Jingwan felt helpless and amused. She walked up, leaned over, put her forehead against his and whispered, Are you satisfied? Li Hongyuan reached out, and put his arm around Jingwan's waist. With a little force he pulled Jingwan into his arms. Wanwan, what are you saying? If someone wants your husband, shouldn't you get rid of them all under normal circumstances? But at this time, it's not a matter of whether I'm satisfied or not, but whether you're satisfied or not. Wanwan, you're protecting your own interests. It was not the first time that Jingwan had learned someone's virtue of pretending to be obedient after getting benefits. As long as you're happy. So Wanwan is not happy? You're the one who should be happier. Yes, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. It was not because she got rid of her rival in love, but because of this man. She put her arm around his neck, and the tip of her nose intimately rubbed against the tip of his nose. Then she kissed his lips without hesitation. The tip of her tongue slid open his lips, and knocked open his teeth. After being married for more than half a year, she was often pulled by someone who was good at kissing to practice. Even if Jingwan was not perfect, she was at least 70 or 80%. It was more than enough to take the initiative once in a while. Li Hongyuan narrowed his eyes. Although he did not know what touched his little heart, his wife was so active and enthusiastic. It was a rare benefit. How could he not enjoy it? His eyes were unusually soft. He just catered to Jingwan's movements, and did not take back the initiative. However, Jingwan was still a little weak in this aspect. In the end, she was the one who was panting. The corners of her eyes were slightly red. She buried her head on Li Hongyuan's shoulder, relaxed her body softly, and calmed her breathing. Li Hongyuan's desire was obviously aroused by her, but it was not a good time to continue doing anything. Li Hongyuan stroked her back again and again. When Jingwan regained her calmness, she straightened up and looked at Li Hongyuan with a smile. Prince, there are some debts. Shouldn't we settle them? Originally, it was very hurtful to bring up old debts. Even if she was unhappy, There was no way to change the past. So it was best to let it go. However, if she did not bring it up, the person who was carrying a debt would be unhappy. Fine, she would settle it properly. Once it was settled, it would be clear whether he would be more unhappy or not. At that time, it would be clear at a glance. Then she would just treat it as a kind of pleasure. Oh, what does Won want to settle with your husband? Lee Hongyuan might have cared about the dark history in the past, thinking that it might not be easy to explain to his wife. But now TSK, he couldn't be any calmer. It even became an excuse for him to trouble Jingwan. It was clearly his fault, but he was more righteous than anyone else. Come, let's talk about your 7 days of love first. What do you mean what's the matter? It's just that. It's such a simple thing. Won is so smart. Do you still need to explain it? Jingwan gritted her teeth. This bastard. Oh, so there's no deeper meaning. So Yuan is not an ordinary person who likes the new and hates the old. Wan's words are wrong. Your husband has nothing to do with the phrase like the new and hate the old. Once I've decided on someone, I'll start to like her from the new time. And then I'll continue to like her, no matter how old she is. And in my eyes, she will always be new and will never fade. Lee Hongyuan held Jingwan's face with one hand, and his eyes were unusually gentle. I like the new and hate the old because, no matter if it's new or old, it can't arouse your husband's attention at all. Jingwan was almost charmed again. Bringing up old debts could make him express his loyalty in disguise. It was really enough. Oxhead despised her. Then she looked at Lee Hongyuan. This bastard was actually laughing. He was clearly laughing at her weak willpower and being so easily charmed by men. Jingwan opened her mouth and took a hard bite. Hiss. Lee Hongyuan seemed to suck in a breath of cold air and looked very painful. Jingwan really thought that she didn't have a sense of propriety. She quickly reached out to rub it. Pure concern made her confused. She didn't think that it wasn't the first time that she had bitten him until he bled. For example, it happened last night. In fact, it just made a beast more beastly. Could it be more serious than that? Lee Hongyuan held her hand. Wan, don't rub it. He seemed to groan in pain. It's so serious. It's obviously. Well, it's very serious. Lee Hongyuan's eyes became more and more serene. Jingwan realized in hindsight. Her face turned red and black. Without saying anything, she continued to bite him to death. Good darling, don't bite. It's really serious. It's so serious that you can't get out of the carriage for at least 4 hours. Lee Hongyuan grabbed her waist and pressed her close to him. Look at it yourself. What have you become? Good darling. You have to know that one look from you can make it react. You deliberately seduced it and didn't appease it. Aren't you trying to take your husband's life? How can this situation not be serious? If Wan moves again, your husband will think that Wan is going to appease it in the carriage. Jingwan really gritted her teeth. But when she felt the obvious hardness and faint heat, she didn't dare to move again. Although Lee Hongyuan's body was a little uncomfortable, he was in a good mood. He kissed Jingwan, who was lying in his arms but was unusually obedient. Are you done with the accounts? If not, then continue. Jingwan coldly sneered. The key is not whether you care or not. The key is that the things you don't care about actually existed. Oh, this is indeed a problem. But it's already an unchangeable fact. What should we do? In addition to the ones raised in the courtyard, there are also some that were given away. In any case, they are all unwanted. If others like them, they can save some rations. Lee Hongyuan's tone was as if he wasn't talking about people, or even objects. Therefore, it was good to appear in the life of the living king of hell, and be chosen by him. Even if it was just a little, in any sense, it could be considered lucky. As for the rest, it was fine if they didn't have feelings for him. But if they did, then it was destined to be the greatest tragedy. Jingwan thought that she was the luckiest one out of all of them. She got his attention, got his feelings, and got his everything. However, in Lee Hongyuan's heart, the luckiest one was herself. It was she who let him know that in addition to benefits, schemes, and harm, there was also warmth and selflessness. There were also things that made people sentimental. These things gave him a new lease of life. It even gave him a second chance in life, prevented the tragedy, and had no regrets. Ah Yuan, your possessiveness is so strong. How can you tolerate your beauties under other people's bodies? Li Hongyuan abruptly lowered his head and pinched Jingwan's chin, forcing her to raise her head. His eyes became unusually dangerous. Wan, do you think that in this world, as long as a woman has a bit of beauty, no matter what background or status, they can touch Ben Wang's body? Is it not so? Jingwan knew that he was angry, but she continued to stroke the tiger's whiskers, innocently blinking her eyes. According to the rumors, as long as it's a beauty, no matter if it's a good background or a lowly one, no matter if it's a pure body or a mortal body, sisters are too common. Mother and daughter are the real beauties. Even if Jin Qinhuang destroys a family, he still wants to get his hands on them. Li Hongyuan approached her, his warm breath brushing against her face. He gently sniffed, like the top predator, confirming the delicious food and thinking about where to start. Jingwan really had a feeling of being completely suppressed, unable to move. Then Wan, do you think they're worthy? Worthy. His voice was soft and low, as if it was the most sincere words of love. Jingwan couldn't stop goosebumps from rising all over her body. She didn't know if it was because of fear, or because of some kind of tremor, but her head involuntarily moved back, as if she couldn't bear it, and moved her body. Unfortunately, she couldn't escape the absolute control of the King of Hell. Wan hasn't answered me yet. Are they worthy? And what was called second sickness, this was it. It was clearly his own glorious deeds. And it was also his own agreement to settle accounts. Now he didn't allow others to say it? Saying it would step on the reverse scale. Jingwan chuckled and reached out to hook his neck. Of course they're not worthy. In this world other than me, who else can touch your body? You're mine, and you can only be mine. Whoever dares to move, whoever dares to come close, I'll take their life. As she said this, she suddenly pushed Li Hongyuan back, lifted her leg, and straddled his waist, pressing him down on the couch. Her hands were on his collar, and she slowly pulled it to both sides. She leaned over and kissed him on the lips, following the corner of his mouth, along his cheek, all the way to the side of his neck. Mine! His mental illness had acted up, and she couldn't escape no matter what. Since that was the case, she might as well do it herself. Anyway, Jingwan was also inexplicably moved. However, this smoothing action was too smooth, and it was already full of skill points. This was like the reversal of roles, and this perverted lunatic only felt abnormally happy. It was as if every pore on his body was relaxed, and his entire body was moaning inside and out. He liked to control everything about Jingwan, and vice versa. He also liked to be controlled by his true love. The most intimate contact was not only pleasurable to the body, but also to the soul. And the final result was that Jingwan delivered herself to him, and was eaten clean by him. She didn't have much time to take the initiative. It wasn't that a certain someone didn't want to cooperate, but that he didn't have the ability to do so. Too extreme pleasure in a short period of time. This had never happened before. Li Hongyuan was also worried that Jingwan wouldn't be able to take it, so he restrained himself. Usually he wouldn't go overboard, and if he did, he would at least rest for a few days. This time, he really went overboard. When Jingwan was carried down from the carriage by Li Hongyuan, the carriage had already stopped in the prince's mansion. It was very close to the main courtyard, and the horses had all been unloaded. The surroundings were also very quiet, and almost no sound could be heard. The sunset in the sky was almost dim. Jingwan was wrapped tightly in a blanket by Li Hongyuan, but his clothes were very casual. The chest area was wide open, and the marks on it were abnormally obvious. Casual, decadent, and satisfied, coupled with that incomparably handsome face, it was even more seductive than usual. Even the group of servant girls who didn't have any thoughts about him couldn't help but blush, and their hearts beat faster. They all lowered their heads, not daring to look at him. Not to mention them, even the bodyguards, even the shadow guards who could be said to have severed all 7 emotions and 6 desires, seemed to be affected by the atmosphere, and were somewhat restless. Jingwan's mind was blank. Someone seemed to have not recovered from his illness yesterday, and today he came again. It seemed that his illness was getting worse and worse. Speaking of which, It was not her who made the debts, but she had lost so much. How miserable it was if she hadn't settled the accounts. Jingwan's last thought was that anyway, it was better to settle the accounts as soon as possible. As for some other things that she still wanted to ask, such as about Wan Fangfei, she had long forgotten them. The next day, Jingwan seemed to be in good spirits, but she didn't do morning exercises, which was enough to prove that she was still a little weak. After tidying up, she went to Great Elder Princess's mansion in a mighty manner. Because of her identity, she didn't wear formal clothes, but used the prince's ceremonial garb. Great Elder Princess accepted the large number of gifts from Jingwan calmly. After all, these things were nothing to her. Great Elder Princess looked at her adopted daughter, who had grown taller and more beautiful. What's more, because she was married, she had a charm that girls didn't have. She was elegant, dignified, generous, and calm. Although not every man would like this type of woman, once he liked her, it would be difficult for him to let her go. No wonder Li Hongyuan, a playboy, could be attracted to her. But at this moment, Great Elder Princess's eyes were a little strange. Foster mother, why are you looking at me like this? Is there something on my face? Jingwan touched her face in confusion. Great Elder Princess smiled and said, I heard that you sent a person to Great Elder Princess's mansion yesterday? Jingwan instantly understood what was going on. So, that maidservant is Great Elder Princess's maid? If so, maybe I should go and have tea with Great Elder Princess. Great Elder Princess was naturally Li Qingdi's eldest daughter, who was 2 or 3 years older than Li Hongyuan. However, because her biological mother was just a palace maid, she didn't have a high status even though she gave birth to Great Elder Princess. Her husband was also the son of an aristocratic family, but he was the kind of favored son. He was a playboy. Although he was nearly 30 years old, he didn't have a fixed character. He liked to play with cats and dogs and was lustful. Yesterday, he directly asked Li Hongyuan for the maidservant. Because the eldest princess was not favored, no one supported her. Not to mention controlling the prince consort, she was actually a punching bag. Her prince consort often said that it was because of her that his future was ruined, so it was natural that he treated her badly. In fact, he was just mud that couldn't be supported. Because he had a princess wife, he blamed everything on the eldest princess, giving him a perfect excuse to lead a drunken life. However, his family members still believed that it was true. He used Great Elder Princess's money to go to brothels and hire actresses. He used Great Elder Princess's house to raise concubines and concubines' children. Great Elder Princess emptied her private property for him. But he didn't get anything good. Jingwan knew these things before she married Li Hongyuan. She naturally hated that kind of man very much. She was also angry at Great Elder Princess. After all, Great Elder Princess was a princess. Not to mention her biological mother. Half of her blood was His Majesty's blood. If she made a scene, His Majesty would not ignore it for the sake of his face. In the final analysis, she was too soft-hearted. She had someone to rely on, but she was bullied by others. However, although Great Elder Princess was her husband's sister, they were not close to each other at all. If there were no acquaintances present, Li Hongyuan might not know who Great Elder Princess was. In this case, no one would meddle in other people's business. However, maybe she could take this opportunity to teach Great Elder Princess's husband a lesson. She just couldn't stand it. Great Elder Princess was speechless. Her daughter's idea was too unusual. It had been such a short time, but she had already caused a stir in the city. She still wanted to have tea with Great Elder Princess? Do you know what kind of rumors have spread about you? Jingwan smiled indifferently. She is just a jealous woman with a vicious heart. To be more serious, she doesn't deserve to be a royal wife. Before I left the capital for Jiangnan, there were already such signs. Isn't it enough? People say that you are clever, but I think you are heartless. Great Elder Princess was a little exasperated. Besides, since you know the consequences, why did you do it? You are just a B***tch. There are many ways to deal with you. Why did you do it in public? You even said that you would throw away the moat. Aren't you deliberately exposing yourself to gossip? How could you do such a stupid thing? Foster mother, don't worry. It doesn't matter. No matter what others say, as long as Prince doesn't say anything, no one can do anything to me. After all, even if it was the emperor, it seems that he wouldn't dare to gamble on whether or not he could find a daughter-in-law who matches Jin Qinhuang's 8 characters. Besides, our Wang Ye is just an idle person, so what if his Wang Fei's moral character is lacking? Jingwan really didn't care about reputation. With her husband's support, she didn't have to worry about the emperor at all. As for why I did it, foster mother, I was forced to do it. Do you believe it? She showed a little grievance. Great elder princess didn't even care about her manners, and directly rolled her eyes at her. It showed what great elder princess was thinking. Jingwan sighed in her heart. It was obvious that she was telling the truth, but why didn't anyone believe her? If she hadn't been forced, she wouldn't have taken Prince Jin's life in that case without caring about reputation. Alright, I can't be bothered to explain it to you. It's fine as long as you know what you're doing. However, allow me to remind you that you shouldn't go overboard. Hong Yuan hasn't said anything yet, and that's because he still treats you well. However, if he were to change his mind in the future, everything that you've done today would be a huge mistake. By then, you'll be the one to suffer. Thank you, foster mother. I know. Don't go too far? The worst was still to come. Jingwan wiped her tears for herself. Jingwan couldn't be 100% sure that Li Hongyuan wouldn't change his mind, but it was really unnecessary to worry about it in the future. It was purely asking for trouble. She just needed to believe in him now. In addition, this matter spread too quickly. If no one added fuel to the fire, it wouldn't be like this. I even suspect that there was someone deliberately plotting this. Otherwise, it's one thing for a lowly servant to be shameless. But how could she have the guts to do such a thing that would make her master lose face? That person might be dead by now. What great elder princess thought of, Jingwan naturally also thought of. Foster mother, you probably have heard about what happened in Jiangnan. I amassed a lot of money in Jiangnan. I just don't know whether they came for Prince Jin, and happened to come for me, or they came for me in the first place. You amassed a lot of money, because of His Majesty? Great elder princess thought that she knew Jingwan to some extent. And according to the financial resources of Prince Jin's mansion, it was really unnecessary. You are wise, foster mother. Jingwan admitted generously. Then it's okay. Because of His Majesty, you are stigmatized. Based on my understanding of His Majesty, if someone dares to do anything to you at this time, he will definitely protect you. Yes. It's more troublesome if the King of Hell finds fault with me. After all, whether it's me or Prince Jin, he will lose face. Prince Jin is not a person who will suffer losses. I've worried for nothing. Thinking of Li Hongyuan's temper and virtue, great elder princess couldn't help having a headache. It was good enough that he didn't make trouble for others. Those who rushed to make trouble for him were either out of their minds or out of their minds. Then, they talked about the scenery in Jiangnan as usual. Speaking of which, great elder princess had also been to Jiangnan. At this time, she was more nostalgic about it. Sister Wan, you are finally back? Hearing the voice before seeing the person, it was none other than old Mistress Yu Yao. It seems that Yu Yao came back earlier than expected. When Jingwan entered Great Elder Princess's mansion, she heard from Great Elder Princess that Yu Yao went back to the main residence of the Jiang family with her brother, and happened to come back today. It was either noon or the next day. What a coincidence. Hearing this, Great Elder Princess also smiled. She didn't want to say anything about the daughter of her superior, who had been led astray. Her son didn't become an official, so she didn't want to say anything. Only this young daughter seemed to be good in all aspects now, which was a great comfort. Yu Yao rushed in hurriedly. When she saw her mother, she realized that she had forgotten herself. She stood properly and said, "Mother, pay my respects to you. Mother, I'm back." Great Elder Princess nodded and didn't get angry. Old Mistress Yu Yao looked relieved and secretly stuck out her little tongue. She thought that others didn't see it, but in fact Great Elder Princess and Jingwan saw it clearly. Both of them burst into laughter. Yu Yao turned to Jingwan and said, "Sister Wan, I miss you so much. You have been in Jiangnan for so long." Jingwan held Yuyao in her arms and said, I also miss Yuyao. Our Yuyao has grown taller and is about to become a big girl. Isn't she about to become a big girl? I already look like a big girl. Yuyao stuck out her small chest and said, Yes, yes, yes. Then some people came in. Obviously, they were Yuyao's companions. There were 2 couples and their children, 4 adults and 3 children. Compared with Yuyao, these people were much more well-behaved. The 2 men were graceful and well-behaved, while the 2 young women were a little reserved. It was okay in ordinary families, but in Great Elder Princess's mansion, they seemed to be a little unpresentable. However, Jingwan also saw that because Great Elder Princess didn't like them, they were a little afraid of Great Elder Princess. Naturally, Great Elder Princess was more unhappy. It was simply a vicious circle, and the children seemed to be a little bit like their mother. Jingwan's status was obvious, so they saluted her again. Jingwan nodded and asked them to be excused. Prince Jean is also in the mansion. Your father is accompanying him to the outer study. You 2 brothers can go and have a look. Yes, mother. We'll take our leave. The 2 brothers left one after another. Without the backbone, Jingwan felt that the remaining people were a little pitiful. In fact, Great Elder Princess was not a fierce person. Did she have to be like this? Great Elder Princess frowned again, but she didn't lose her temper in the end. Princess Jean brought back a lot of good things from the south of the Yangtze River for me. There are a lot of things. You can take some back by yourselves. Yes, thank you, mother. Great Elder Princess waved her hand and sent them away impatiently. After they left, she sighed to Jingwan. I don't know whether it's right or wrong to choose such a daughter-in-law. In order to reassure the emperor, Great Elder Princess chose daughters-in-law from small families, who were naturally not presentable in her eyes. Jingwan didn't answer. Everything was like drinking water. Only people knew whether it was hot or cold. As the saying went, if you were willing to give up, you would get something. However, obviously, Great Elder Princess didn't want to get an answer from Jingwan. Sister, did you bring me a gift? Yuyao shook Jingwan's hand and asked coquettishly, How can I not bring you a gift? You are becoming more and more unruly. Great Elder Princess scolded softly. Yuyao knew that her mother wasn't really angry, so she wasn't afraid at all. What did you give me? Mother, can I go and have a look now? Go, go. You are making my head ache here. Great Elder Princess said with disdain. Yuyao walked away with a smile and ran away as soon as she was out of her mother's sight. They are all debt collectors. Great Elder Princess rubbed her temples, but there was a smile at the corner of her mouth. Children are not all debt collectors of their parents. Generation after generation, they first collect debts from their parents, and then their children collect debts from them. No one can escape from it. Yes. Jingwan, what about you? Is there any good news in your belly? Great Elder Princess's eyes naturally fell on Jingwan's belly. Under such circumstances, unless one was like Sun Yijia, who got pregnant after getting married, they would definitely be urged to get pregnant. No one could escape. It's fate to have a child. Let nature take its course. Of course, she couldn't tell Great Elder Princess the truth. Later, Great Elder Princess wanted to ask her to stay for dinner, but the imperial palace suddenly summoned Li Hongyuan. Before Li Hongyuan left, he sent someone to ask Jingwan. Jingwan directly got up and left. Great Elder Princess didn't ask her to stay. Even if Li Hongyuan was an idle prince, Great Elder Princess wouldn't interfere in the affairs of the imperial court. After all, it was a special period. White could be smeared black, so it was better to be careful. At the gate of Great Elder Princess's mansion, Jingwan and Li Hongyuan parted ways. One went to the imperial palace, while the other went back to the prince's mansion. Li Hongyuan left most of the guards of honor to Jingwan, and he went directly on his horse. In Jingwan's opinion, it was mostly about the matter in Jiangnan. As long as the final result was not out, Prince Jean, as an imperial envoy, was the kind of imperial envoy who left other officials aside. It was impossible for him to refuse to do it. Although he could disobey Emperor Lucheng, there should be a limit. It would be bad if Emperor Lucheng issued an imperial edict to invite him. Jingwan sat in the carriage, slightly closed her eyes, and fiddled with the Buddha beads on her left wrist with her right hand, thinking about something. There were some things that Li Hongyuan didn't say clearly, but Jingwan could feel the tension from some of the letters. Even if she knew that Li Hongyuan had great power, and it was not easy for him to get the throne, she still couldn't help worrying about him, as long as the dust didn't settle. She couldn't do anything for him, and she couldn't drag him down. There was the sound of hurried horse hooves, followed by the neighing of the horse, and the carriage suddenly shook. Because of inertia, Jingwan directly hit the wall of the carriage, and it soon came to a complete stop. Jingwan rubbed her aching arm. What happened? Someone rode a horse and hit the carriage, disturbing Wang Fei. Asking Wang Fei for forgiveness. And Yi's voice came from outside the window. Jingwan's brows slightly moved. Daring to ride a horse in the capital, Jingwan had to say good guts. But daring to hit the guard of honor of the living king of hell, that was equivalent to eating 100 bears' heart and leopard's guts. Ask clearly who it is. If it's an emergency, let the other party take the responsibility of riding a horse and receive the punishment himself. If it's deliberately riding a horse, take the person and hand it over to the governor's office to deal with according to the law. Obviously, no matter what the situation was, Jingwan didn't intend to pursue the matter when she was hit. Jingwan didn't pursue the matter, but an E and the others didn't necessarily not pursue the matter. Offending Wang Fei wasn't a small matter, so how could they not pursue the matter? Later, when their master pursued the matter, they would all be punished. It was originally fine, but disaster simply fell from the sky. However, right now whatever Wang Fei said was what it was. Was this obeying on the surface but opposing on the inside? Absolutely not. Jingwan prepared to continue to close her eyes and rest. But outside. Do you know who this young master is? Jingwan sighed in her heart. With this standard tone of a hedonistic little tyrant, she knew that this matter couldn't be settled peacefully. He had to use his power to bully people. However, it was clear that the other party didn't live in the capital, but they definitely had power and influence. Otherwise, how could they dare to be arrogant in front of the living king of hell? Leaving it for consideration, Jingwan was 80 to 90% sure of the other party's identity. Leaning over, she slightly lifted the curtain of the window and looked outside. There were 7 or 8 strong guards with a deep murderous aura. At a glance, one could tell that they were soldiers who had experienced hundreds of battles. This kind of person should be respected for protecting the country, but now they were being driven by the little tyrant. Moreover, for her husband's face, she couldn't back down. Jingwan put down the curtain and sat quietly, letting an E and the others deal with it. As expected, a conflict immediately broke out between the two sides. At this time, Mama Gong also lifted the curtain and came in. Firstly, she was worried that the horses outside would be startled again. Secondly, Mama Gong heard the noise just now, and was 100% sure that Jingwan had been hit. She was worried and wanted to take a look. Jingwan wasn't surprised. Mama Gong had always been careful and didn't hide anything. She directly rolled up her sleeves. No one thought that an accident would happen, because she was caught off guard. The hit wasn't light, and a large bruise appeared on her arm. Mama Gong frowned and took out medicine from a hidden box in the carriage. She applied it on Jingwan's arm and rubbed it. This pain wasn't unbearable. Your Highness, you should already know the other party's identity, right? Mama Gong asked softly. Yes. The He family has been guarding the Northeast since 50 years ago. Now it's the 3rd generation. They have 100,000 soldiers, and are known as the Northeast Army. They are like the stabilizing force of Qi Yuan in the Northeast. Unlike other generals, the He family lives in the Northeast border town, and returns to the capital every 3 years to report on their work. As far as I know, in the past years, it was the commander-in-chief who came back with about 100 people. This year, it seems that even his family members have come back. Was there something unknown about this? No matter who it is, His Highness won't let them go if they hurt Her Highness. Jingwan was silent. This was an obvious thing. If it was really an accident, she would say a few words to persuade him. But obviously it wasn't. This little tyrant was used to being arrogant. In the Northeast border town, his family was the boss, equivalent to the local tyrant. Naturally, no one dared to do anything to him. Even in the capital, he had the capital to be arrogant. However, he was no longer at the top of the pyramid. If he ran into the hands of the king of hell, it was like running into an iron plate. Even if he didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin. Logically speaking, the other party was a real fierce army. The guards of the prince's residence were carefully selected, so they couldn't be compared. And and the others couldn't show their full strength, in order to avoid being exposed. However, who told Jingwan to have more people on her side? Moreover, during the training, several people worked together. It took a long time, but the final result didn't change. That little tyrant still wanted to clamor, but his mouth was blocked. Your Highness, how should we deal with these people? And he didn't directly send them to the capital government, but asked again. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/6654065. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicon.com mobile edition. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.